Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Liberty Libations. We're here with part of the usual crew. We got Steven and Zane, and then we have Brad Binkley joining us from the Propaganda Report. What's going on, everybody? How are you guys tonight?
Oh,
Doing
great.
well. You cracking open a
Doing
beer,
well.
Steven?
Yes, sir.
All right.
What
are
you
you
got
drinking?
there?
Shout out to Pontoon. This is their Aquatronic double IPA. Hold on, camera awareness. There we go.
Nice. I have to
So,
say the wine you guys gave at the convention was delicious.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we're
the
gonna
Rabbit
talk
Eye
about
wine.
that in a
That's a
second.
sponsor of the show.
There you go.
What about you, Zane? I saw you drinking something that looked quite delicious.
Oh, it's rum and grapefruit juice.
Nice.
All right.
See, I think it's the glass that makes that, because like if I would be drinking that, it'd be out of like a Yahtzee cup and not looking nearly as special. So.
It's a fancy type of glass called a hurricane glass.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was,
I remember those.
because it kind of looks like a hurricane lamp. I think it looks like a lava lamp, but
There we go.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. So let's talk about real quick that wine that was at convention that now Binkley has endorsed. So that is Rabbit Eye Wine, the sponsor of our show now. So make sure you go to rabbiteyewine.com, check out the locations where that's sold, and you can see all sorts of places throughout here in Georgia. So there's a couple places in Atlanta you can go find it, all around Savannah, since that's where Bell Farms is located down there. And if there's nowhere near you, if you're out, in one of these dead zones where you can't get Rabbit Eye Wine, go order a case here at, their shop button, get a case sent to you. And it's good stuff. We, everybody raves about it who has it. I like it better than grape wine. I'm over that stuff now. It's all
I don't even
blueberries
drink
for me.
wine usually, and I tasted that wine, and it was gone very quickly. It was delicious.
Yes.
And it has antioxidants. So it's,
It's healthy.
everything plants need.
All right, so let's go to our first story for the night, which is Milei again. So Milei to introduce bill jailing anyone who orders the central bank to print money to cover the deficit. And that's basically it in the title there. He said in a Spanish interview, so we won't play it, but he basically said that something known as señorage, which is not señorage, I don't know, awful Spanish pronunciation, but that would be a criminal offense under what he's proposing. So anybody from the government who prints me to for the deficit or to profit would, be up for going to jail. What do you think of this, Steven?
I think it's a great idea. It's definitely a step in the right direction. So you're going to see some negative news. Everybody that likes the status quo in Argentina, they're going to come out and talk about what kind of damage this is doing. They're going to try to come out with some kind of measurements of how it's cost the economy so much money, this, that, and the other. Just like when he first got in, it's like, oh, well, social services, the use of social services has plummeted. Not many people are getting buses around town. Not many people, people lost their jobs now because they're not riding the bus. And it's, well, yeah, if your job sucked to begin with and didn't need to exist, of course it's gone now. So it's one of those things where, the rot has set in for so long that ripping off the Band-Aid is going to cause some initial pain. But, what you heal from is going to be a strong foundation.
Yeah. I don't think it was this one, but there was another like clearly biased article that was like one of the first things Milei did was devalue the peso by 50%.
Right.
And really what he did was like remove the fake government number and let the free market decide, more or less how much the peso was worth to people. And it turns out the government was inflating it by 50%, so it came down.
Is this like him turning off the money printing machine? Is that kind of what this is?
Yes.
I think that's what he's trying to do. I don't, this is a proposed bill. This is something he said like during an interview. And he still says that it's like a must that they're going to shut down the central bank. So that is, I think his core thing, the reason why he's run for president for the most part, it seems like, is to stop the central bank and their out of control inflation. And I know for a while he was wanting to dollarize, and that might still be on the table. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
The question here is whether you think that stealing should be illegal. Because if you do,
Yeah.
this move makes perfect sense. Because if everybody has, some money, and then you just print up some more money, you're stealing a little bit of everybody else's, worse. And it's highway robbery. And the only reason they get away with it is because nobody understands what central banks do.
Yeah, and they appeal to people who need like government money immediately in the short term, whether it's whatever government programs or some sort of bailout of whatever, and it's hard for them to see the broad range effect, how it would be better for them in the long term.
Well, and all the money printing that we've done since, let's say, 2019 at least, the global inflation that has caused for everybody that's coupled with the dollar so tightly, Argentina got hit really hard, and that's what made it possible for him to get in there, because it created enough turmoil that he came in with this message of freedom and self-sufficiency that they were finally ready for. Because I just remember that as they started raising interest rates, there were stories coming out that if they raise the interest rates one more time, Argentina's economy is going to collapse because they're so heavily tied to the dollar. And it's kind of the same thing that's happening with Egypt right now, which is right on Israel's southern border. And they just had to devalue their currency because they're in a major debt crunch. Unless we bail them out, the Muslim Brotherhood is going to take over again, and then we lose the Camp David Accords. So it's, back in the 50s, there was a saying, rich as an Argentine. They have resources. They are a wealthy nation. So someone has been squatting on top of this and siphoning it off for themselves. I mean, the wealth is there. It's just, It's been going to the wrong pockets.
Yeah, Buenos Aires used to be called the Paris of the South.
Right.
And it's still a nice city, but maybe Paris has gone hill down enough that you could still make the comparison, but I don't know it would earn that name these days.
Buenos Aires isn't even the
Zane.
only.
I gotta ask Zane, and you can go ahead anyway. But is seigniorage a word that you were familiar with? Because I felt stupid when I read that.
Yeah, so I have heard of it before, but that's only because I'm a monetary policy nerd. So what seigniorage is, or seigniorage, if you want to be exotic, is it's essentially the additional purchasing power that the government gets by virtue of being able to create more money that people want to use. So everybody's using the US dollar, and because of that, the US government can just decide, well, we're going to make some more of these. And because, so now we've made some more of them, and we currently have them, so that means that we get to spend them and people will accept them. So the government just gets to buy extra stuff compared to how much they actually taxed, because they also have this extra ability to create something that people value out of literally nothing.
They have the money printing machine.
So perhaps the moral of the story is, and I'm sure that if Jake was on, he would have gotten here already, is the only reason that the dollar is valuable is because people want to use it. Yeah. If people didn't want to use the dollar and wanted to use something else like Bitcoin, then seigniorage would go away because the government would no longer have an ability to create something that other people value.
Cough, cough, El Salvador.
Right? Yeah. So how's that going in El Salvador? They're the Bitcoin nation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's legal currency there. And I knew 2 months later that all the international headlines were, they coupled with Bitcoin and then it took a crap. And it's okay, well, now that it's up at 70K, how's that looking? I'm sure it looks pretty nice. And by the way, their president was up at CPAC a few weeks ago, and he gave a great speech on seigniorage.
Was he naked? Printing. Doesn't he do things naked all the time, that guy?
I don't know.
Yeah, I read a story where he likes to he thinks naked. He walks around his house. He's just always nude. I don't know if he gave a speech like that.
Great minds think alike. I'll tell you what.
But so the original meaning of seigniorage was, when money was actually made out of things that were valuable, like gold.
Yeah.
Mints were just places that took raw gold and silver and made them into coins. So they were actually performing a socially useful service, which was, if you just show up to the grocery store with a gold speck nobody has any idea how much it's worth. But
Yeah,
if you take gold to the mint and then they kind of put their stamp on it and form it into a coin of a uniform value, then it becomes a lot easier to be able to spend it. So, mints could charge for this service, and by issuing coins for more than the actual raw gold was worth, but it was because that value was reflective of the fact that they had turned it into something that was standardized and could be easily bought and sold, as opposed to now where the government just writes on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So here are some examples of the type of super important jobs that Milei is getting rid of. So they're closing 2 more public offices, and 900 employees will be laid off from the Institute of Family, Peasant, and Indigenous Agriculture. I mean, that's super important.
They do good work over there at that office.
Which was headed by the leader of some communist movement, basically, and the National Council of Family Agriculture. So, I don't know how Argentina is going to survive without these 2 things. I'm sure those 900 employees were just holding the country together, and everyone's going to starve now.
And that's how they present these stories like that, is he's removing the government offices and those employees, and they make it seem as though it's your next door neighbor who's just working to survive, who's getting the job taken away. But the reality is a lot of these positions are just created to funnel money to their buddies and people they went to school with and other people in the aristocracy or whatever. You can boil this down all the way to homeowners associations in the U.S., where there's all these scandals. I've covered a number of them this year, where these presidents of homeowners associations have pocketed millions of dollars, and they have funneled it through jobs where they've created fines on houses. Then they said, we need to hire our contractor to do it. And they just employ their buddies and their siblings, and they overpay them. And it's just a money laundering operation. And if it happens at the smallest scale, your homeowners association, then it's going to be, that much worse at the bigger scale like this.
Oh yeah. Like Michelle Obama giving her college roommate $2 billion for a website that didn't work. Something like that.
Was that healthcare.gov?
Yes, sir.
So who Fulton County hired to fix their cybersecurity problems, right? They hired that company that did healthcare.gov. $10 million they gave them. It's a joke.
Was it SCYTL? Is that what it was?
I can't remember the name of it, but I just remember their top of their resume was they created the failed healthcare.gov, and Fulton County is like, that's who we need to protect our cybersecurity.
I remember back in 2018 when the city of Atlanta got hit with that Bitcoin ransomware, and the hackers wanted the equivalent of like $2 million in a ransom, and they were like, we don't have that kind of money. We're a small town city. And then they spend $5 million on the investigation, $1 million on the PR firm to put a positive spin on how they handled the situation.
Yeah.
And then they still had to replace all the infrastructure, which apparently didn't work because they still got hit again.
Yeah.
Just this year.
Super corrupt in Fulton County.
Oh yeah. So yeah. Similar setup. I mean, I wonder, if this chairman of family, peasant, and indigenous agriculture can even grow a green bean.
I doubt it.
What's in your backyard garden, bro? Let's see that for real.
Yeah. Because that was the original payment system, is the barter system. When we were hunter and gatherers, and we didn't have to use this type of currency.
Right.
Well, the chief purpose of all the agencies with these extremely long and niche names is that they don't actually do anything. All they do is sit around and produce white papers that go immediately into the trash.
And having gay sex in front of hidden cameras.
Oh, wait,
and Fulton County's dealing with another Bitcoin ransom right now, aren't they? And they may have paid it. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but nothing
they deny
was released.
That they've paid it.
Yeah.
They've been held hostage.
The hackers just didn't release out of the goodness of their hearts.
That's what I wonder too. Why didn't they release it? Because this group, Lockbit, they have a history of releasing it, and Fulton County says they didn't pay it, but the government systems have been under the control of this Lockbit group since the end of January. And this is the county where the most consequential criminal trial in American history is happening. They're not even in control of themselves.
Right.
Yeah, and Lockbit is basically impossible.
Sorry.
So I was gonna say Logbit's basically impossible to shut down too. So I think the like media narrative was that they arrested some people and that's probably why they didn't release anything.
Yeah.
But really like they operate like almost decentralized, like an affiliate program where it's like I make the ransomware software, and if Zane wants to go to UGA and just start plugging that into computers, he will earn a commission off of any ransom that's paid. So anybody could probably go join Lockbit as long as I guess you know how to access the darknet and go download the software and start spreading your ransomware. So even if Zane got bopped doing that and he's in jail, that doesn't mean that the other 50, 100 or however many people around the world are doing it would be out of the game. So
Right. Well, that's
I don't know. It seems to me like they probably paid it.
It's the
that's like the
Tupperware
anonymous
of
group.
ransom attacks.
Yeah. I heard on the radio a couple of weeks ago that they arrested a Belarusian teenager, and he was the one that was behind the Fulton County hack.
Yeah, they claimed to bust it up without arrest, and then a couple days later as well, it looks like Lockbit they've left the one website after getting busted by the FBI, and they've reconvened on another dark website, and they have issued another warning to Fulton County. This time, whatever the account, I can't remember the name of the account, says that they came after us because they knew we were going to release information related to the Trump trial, and they said it would exonerate him. I don't know how true it is. That whole indictment is bogus anyway, but if they do have access to Fulton County systems, then they're going to have access to sensitive information, and they did show some documents that showed that they had access to court cases that had sealed information and informants that weren't supposed to be revealed. So they did prove to the FBI in Fulton County that they had sensitive data. They just haven't released all of it.
Well,
Okay.
it seems like the only way they can really be stopped is if they announce they have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it's really odd that it's always some teenager in Belarus that gets caught. You remember several years ago that it was Home Depot, Neiman Marcus, and Target. They had that, what was it, the Heartbleed attack that was taking people's credit card information. That was a group of Belarusian teenagers. Somehow they got a hold of a CIA algorithm called Heartbleed. Huh. It's really interesting.
So
and
these kids are smart these days.
Yeah, exactly. But then at the same time, you got Hillary campaigning for president, talking about hacking our infrastructure is grounds for a nuclear attack on Russia.
And I have to say, I don't know why Fulton County just didn't build its systems with the same software that they made the Dominion voting machines with, because that's the only unhackable thing in Fulton County.
There you go.
And it always seems like the attribution that they come up with is the most convenient thing ever. Like in cybersecurity, they always say like attribution is hard. Like if your company gets hacked, you're probably just not going to find out who did it unless they come knocking on your door and be like, hey, I did this, give me money. Yeah. So, but every time it's some government hack, and I'm sure, they have more sophisticated ways of finding them maybe than I'm aware of, but it always just comes back to like, oh, look, our enemy did it. The like very convenient enemy, the Belarusians, the Russians, the Chinese, if we're mad at them for that week, it's them. It's when
it's FBI agents too that infiltrate.
Yeah. That's probably how they know who did it to begin with. But, like basically any hacker would know not to, connect from your home or even your home country. All you have to do is rent a VPN out of a different country. And, you're going to, but they still are like, oh, we just know it was Belarus. We know it was Russia, whatever. We popped this guy and it's over now.
Yeah, parents, put your children in cyber hacking school. They'll make millions and never get caught, I think is the message. Unless they're Belarusian.
Right.
Well, I work in cybersecurity. So I work in cybersecurity and I do like penetration testing, which is, ethical hacking where we, find the issues before the bad guys can. And it doesn't matter how noisy I am. It is very rare that any client even notices that we're doing it. Of course they're aware they hired us, but like they might not tell everybody in the company. So like their tech guy might be sitting there while we're just like hammering on their systems and they won't even know.
So is it phishing schemes where you try and mask websites to get them to enter their credentials, stuff like that?
I've done that before and that's usually pretty successful, but like it gets hard because Google and places like that really do a pretty good job of like spam filtering and phishing filtering. So we're like, if you use any word that they don't like, it's like a landmine, or those go straight into spam. But it's still possible, and it's super successful. We used to do what's called red teams, where basically anything was open. Like you could hack their website, you could go break into their office, you could phish them, whatever.
Wow,
it's
that's
all
cool.
open. And basically we just like hold on till phishing until the end. And if we were like discouraged and hadn't done any, like gotten anything, we'd just start phishing them, and we'd always get something.
Yeah.
So.
I read where that was the most of the successful attacks come that way. My Facebook page, I got stolen because which I'm aware of these phishing attempts. I clicked on a link and I entered my credentials because a friend of mine said, "Hey man, he was worried that a page that we had made for this show a while ago." And I was never on Facebook. I hadn't been on in probably a year or so at the time. And he said, "We got this thing saying that they're going to take our page down because of inactivity." And he sent it to me, which let my guard down. And had I like read it myself, I'm more cautious, but I'm like, oh yeah. And I just clicked it, and it looked like the Meta messaging thing. And I entered my credentials the next day. My page was stolen and gone, and Meta won't help you get it back at all.
Yeah, I've seen those. Like, there's been phishing attacks that I'm like, I wouldn't blame anybody for falling for that one because it's good.
Yeah.
And, I've created ones for clients in the past that I'm like, I'm not even mad at anybody who falls for this because I feel like I did a really good job, and it's super close to being legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every so often, my company will send out these really obvious phishing emails. And then a couple hours later, they'll send another one being like, "Did you click that link? If so, you are a complete idiot."
Yeah. Like it as a test. That's funny.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll leave Argentina there. So we're just excited I get to see that happening. 900 more employees laid off. Institute for Peasants or whatever is, ruined. Argentina's peasants are dying in the streets, I'm sure.
There will be an absolute bloodbath of Argentinian
Bloodbath,
peasants.
Totally. Yeah.
You have no idea how relevant that was. That's
just the beginning. That'll just be the beginning.
Yeah. So we have Bloodbath, which here is the actual remarks that Trump made. So if anybody is just completely unfamiliar with this, again, there's all these rhetorical landmines that are out there, and Trump said one of them. He said, a violent sounding word for something that he didn't intend to be violent, and everybody jumped on that. Like, he's going to kill us. He's telling his supporters to go create a bloodbath. And here's the actual text of what he said.
100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Nazi.
Here to talk.
Why are they wearing matching green jackets?
So St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yes, that's right.
So I'll say, isn't that exactly what you don't want to wear on a news set too? Because you'll blend into the green screen.
It'll just be their head.
So Zane, tell us, number one, what's up with this 100% tariff? Is that a good idea?
Well,
and then has bloodbath ever been used before?
I mean, talk about what would be a bloodbath for the country if you started putting in 100% tariffs on foreign imports of cars. If somebody buys a foreign car, it's because either it was cheaper or they thought that it was better than any of the ones that they could get in the United States. So if you make them all completely unaffordable on purpose, then you'll be forcing lots and lots of people to be buying a car that is, in their view, ridiculously overpriced or not as good. There's a really good thought experiment explaining how the U.S. has two ways of manufacturing cars. The first way is, there's a car factory in Detroit, the metals go in and a car pops out. The second way is we grow a lot of grain, and then we put all the grain on a boat and send it off into the ocean. And then a couple of months later, the boat mysteriously arrives back and it's loaded with cars. In terms of the economics, there's really no difference between producing the cars one way versus another way. It's just that the second way involves foreign trade, and that's scary to a lot of people.
Yeah. So, Binkley, what has been your thoughts with this whole bloodbath hoax that's going on? Because I know you like to analyze the media and analyze propaganda, and this seems to be like the most obvious display of it that we've seen in a while. But it's not going to be the last, I'm sure. This is going to happen every few weeks with whatever Trump says.
Yeah, it's gotten more brazen, in my opinion, because what they have done with this one is they have doubled down on it when people have pointed out that they took it out of context. And they have now said, okay, well, we'll show you what he said, and then we'll give you the full context. And by full context, what they mean is we're going to talk about all of the Nazi things Trump has done, how he said there were good people on both sides in Charlottesville. This is what they've been doing. And I played some clips on the show last night of them doing this, trying to explain to their audience what context actually means, because their propaganda is being pointed out more, so they have to kind of pivot and say, how can we embrace being called out while also still brainwashing our people? And I think that's something that's going on across the entire landscape of propaganda, where we're no longer going to hide that we're lying. We're just going to get better at gaslighting because we don't feel like we need to cover it up. But it's crazy. You can even point out the contradictions where they use the word bloodbath over and over and over again in previous years. But it doesn't matter because they are so confident that their target audience, their brains are fractured, or that they'll never be exposed to the alternative explanation. And I think this represents just a growing brazenness in their willingness to lie and not even hide it anymore.
Yep. And let's check out real quick some of the fallout.
These two.
So this is after, I think, he was getting roasted a little bit for perpetuating the hoax. He doubles down, like you said.
He's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in the terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, president, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one more. It's just bullshit. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath. And when he finishes by saying, and that's just going to be the least of it, seriously, these people may be stupid. We're not.
They all say the same thing. They all focus on, he said, this is going to be the least of it. And bloodbath, which I think is probably what him and Mika Brzezinski there take every single morning with adrenochrome.
Yeah, no doubt. Mika looked like her pain pill was kicking in during all that.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you make a deal with the devil, right? You got to be in a bloodbath. So, they've done it. That's how he has a crappy show, even as the dumbest guy on TV. So.
And an intern who had an unfortunate death when he was with the governor of Florida or whatever his position was down there.
That might have been the price, The devil was like, all right, well, give me a soul here.
I cut some clips of that. I'm trying to find it. And it's because it's kind of right up the alley here. This, if I can find it, you guys can keep going. I'll find it in a second.
Some quack mentioned somebody made a supercut of Democrats using the word bloodbath in a figurative sense. And I don't know if this is the exact same one, but basically we have that queued up.
But it's cable news all across the country. That was the buzzword for the week. That was on the
this is specifically Morning Joe here.
Yeah, they take Trump literally when it benefits them.
It's going to be
It was going to be a bloodbath.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
Would be an absolute bloodbath.
Bloodbath. This bloodbath in South Carolina.
There's going to be a bloodbath.
There will be a bloodbath at the convention.
An absolute bloodbath.
This was going to be a bloodbath. Does this nominee get through without a bloodbath?
Hashtag bloodbath.
Hashtag bloodbath.
Yeah. So if you want to play some of this, you can. If not, it's cool too. But the thing that struck me about this is the one that I played on the show yesterday, was I was scrolling through YouTube and I saw the image that they had created. And I'm like, wow, they must really have some interesting propaganda with this one when they have labeled Trump the you can share it there, labeled Trump the bloodbath candidate running for president there. He said the bloodbath candidate. And then they have dehumanizes migrants. And just the lower thirds there, the combination, they already are putting in their viewers' minds what's going on. But if you want to play some of that, you can. I can't remember what arrangements of the clips are, but it's basically similar sentiment as to what Joe and Mika were doing.
Yep. So are you going to play this? Or you
Oh, I
just
can
going
if you
to-
want me to. Yeah.
Yeah, if you'd like
Sorry,
to.
I forgot that you
Go
guys
ahead.
can't there.
Trump's dehumanization of immigrants, the martyrdom of the so-called January 6th hostages, these are the context, Snyder argues, for the moment in that speech that set off alarm bells for many people. A moment in which Trump threatened that if he loses in November, there's going to be a bloodbath. Here is exactly what he said.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
They all said the same talking point. They all said the same friggin' thing. But I mean, the rest of it is more of the same.
I noticed that he said, and you won't be able to buy those cars. So I'm fairly sure that 100% tariff would create a bloodbath in the automotive industry. But
This clip, it was like a 10-minute segment. They started it out with the first couple of minutes of him laying the groundwork of the history of Hitler and Goebbels and how they chose a martyr. And it was all of this priming to lead up to how here's the real context of it. And then after this, they brought on, I think it was a Yale historian professor or history professor. And he is just talking about how what Trump really means is that he's going to murder everybody and that he's the next Hitler. And then he did the thing they always do, and you see this on Twitter a lot. He goes, my 11-year-old daughter said to me that when a dictator tells you something, you should believe him. Like, no, your 11-year-old daughter didn't say that shit. And if she did, she should be sent to a foster home because you're a horrible parent.
Right. Look at the NLP in the background, too. Got the words immigration and climate.
Yeah, I pointed that out, too. The graphic, the climate shit. That's crazy, man.
Right.
it should just say,
man.
be scared.
Yeah.
Consume, obey.
Obey.
Yeah.
That's where it's going.
So
That's the thing with leftists always trying to claim that there's these secret messages in everything that Trump said.
The dog
and
whistles.
that Republican politicians are constantly using dog whistles. When it's like the only people that ever seem to ever hear the dog whistles are the lefties who are freaking out about it.
Yeah, right. So they take it, like I said, they take it literally when it benefits them. And then for them, it's not literal when they say it. It goes back to, in my opinion, when Trump was responding to somebody in the audience years and years ago in 2016, I think, when somebody said something about Hillary's emails. And he goes, Russia, if you have Hillary's 33,000 emails, then please. I mean, that he was joking off the cuff, and that became these guys very seriously saying Trump asked Putin to find the emails for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's totally ignore that around the same time, Hillary's given a speech talking about how long it takes to fire the nukes once the order is given. She's like, it takes 48 seconds. The order comes down, it goes to this department, it goes to this department. They all hit a button at the same time, and then they launch from here, here, and here. And we're like, isn't that classified? Like, how did that just happen?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So, Steven, do you have any thoughts on this overall media frenzy, the bloodbath comments? Or
I mean, they're
that in
really
general?
focusing on the wrong thing. I mean, they could really just be blowing it out of the water with, if you vote for me, you hate Israel and you hate Jews. Or if you vote for Democrats, rather.
Yeah.
Sticking his foot in his mouth on that one. He's trying to copy Biden, what he did on the Breakfast Club. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. But if you vote for me, you hate Jews.
The problem is Biden he's not clear cut, at least in his messaging on that. So they can't get a hard, differentiation between the two of them on that.
Yeah, exactly.
With the messaging anyway.
Oh, and just
They
run that
give
through
him
AI.
the-
If they try to use Aristotelian logic to boil that down, if you're black, you hate Jews. What?
And Kanye says, if you're black, you are a Jew.
It's just
They give
they're looking for
Biden
anything.
the exact opposite treatment, where it's like he can come out and just be like, Trish, da, ba, da, da, ba, da. And they're like, well, what he meant was this and that. And they'll like literally write in the articles what they think he meant rather than what he said.
Right, they'll interpret it. Biden could come out. He could have came out during the State of the Union speech, stepped to the side of the panel, pulled his pants down, and jerked off all over whoever's sitting in the front row. And then the reporting would have been, Biden shows how invigorating and alive he is during the State of the Union.
Right.
This reminds me of right like right after like the whole Ukraine stuff started, when Biden went up and was like, Putin cannot remain in power. And then a couple hours later, one of the press secretary or one of his advisors came out and said the White House's policy on Russia has not, on regime change in Russia has not changed.
Yeah.
And it's like, so who's making the White House policy if it's not Biden?
Talk about a dog whistle right there. That's why I think that they have had Biden in power as long as they had, because he gives the appearance of this man who's bumbling and fumbling and not all there. And I think that's probably mostly the case, but he can also get away with saying things that are just really awful and damning that can appear not to be so as bad, or they can be walked back when maybe they're true.
And that's a fact, Jack.
And they're now rewriting history, it seems, to make them right in retrospect. So Google, if you were to just search for bloodbath definition, this last Sunday, it's a ruthless slaughter of a great number of people, or a period of disastrous loss or reversal. And then the example is a few market funds performed well in the general bloodbath of the stock market. And now, and I looked this up myself and saw that it was true, same thing Googled, bloodbath definition. It is, why am I not seeing it? Is it shared? What in the world? I swear I read this fine the first time, and now I don't even see the definition on. Oh, there it is. It's just smaller, and I can't see. An event or situation in which many people are killed in a violent manner, and that is the only definition they have now.
I'm surprised it doesn't say by Donald Trump at the end of that. The way,
yeah.
It's just crazy.
They did revise like several hundred definitions this year.
They've been changing definitions for the past 5 or 6 years. The definition of I think gender definitions. It's wild, the rewriting of history that they're doing. And you have with news outlets reporting on stuff, they will falsely report things, and a lot of us have been exposing that for a while. But there was something, I can't remember what it was. It was a new policy by one of maybe Washington Post that some of the other ones have adopted as well, where they are going to enable themselves to completely wipe away the old wrong articles instead of just putting the correction in there. They're just going to get rid of the old ones and put the new one there after the fact. So the history of them lying is gone. I hate to say it's 1984, but it's 1984.
I used to laugh at people who thought they could remove stuff from the internet. I'd be like, no, the internet's forever. You can't do it. It's out there somewhere. But now it's legitimately possible, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And there'll be people who are connected to, like, say, the Internet Archive that'll have the archive remove it for them.
That shit
And
doesn't work
like,
anymore, the archive, as well as it used to at all.
Like Taylor Lorenz is one of them, where I don't remember how the relation is, but somebody in her family runs the Internet Archive and carved out an exception for her so that her tweets were not archived. So she could say whatever stupid crap she wanted. And then when she deleted it, it's actually gone. Yeah. Unless, one of us or somebody like that took a screenshot.
Well, they have these companies now that they probably making millions cleaning up people's reputations on the internet before they run for office. Like, this is one of the reasons why you can't find anything about somebody like Fani Willis's background with her ex-husband or Stacey Abrams or any of these other popular figures now that emerge onto the scene. They pay somebody.
AOC.
Yeah, AOC is another one. I think Critical Mentions, that's a media monitoring company that Fani Willis uses Fulton County taxpayer money to monitor her mentions online, and I believe help clean up her online persona. But if you say it online and you don't have the money to clean it up like that, then it's going to stay. But if you do, it'll be gone.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's good to know.
All right. So last video for this topic real quick. So this is a funny one.
This guy
mush a lot of stuff in what he says. And then his campaign says, oh, he was only joking, or, oh, it was taken out of context. He wasn't talking about violence in the country.
Is he eating a banana?
Why is he eating a banana? I'm sorry.
Yes,
this is bananas.
If you look at the
Oh my
longer
gosh.
the video, it becomes pretty clear that he was talking about the automotive industry. In fact, I got a video right here.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line. And
Is this real?
Yeah, I wish I could.
No, that one's not real.
Oh,
I
thank
wish
God.
it was. But
Okay.
Man, that's hilarious. That's funny.
yeah, this is Damon Imani, and he does a lot of these. He like just edits himself into the news, and it's
That's
always
good, yeah.
hilarious.
I thought that was real at first. I was like, they got a guy eating a banana on MSNBC.
Well, they did have that one chick with the dildo on the bookshelf behind her that one time during COVID.
That's great. That's
I mean,
awesome.
it
Probably
was
one
a
in her
huge one.
seat as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Jeffrey Tubin never sits down unless a dildo is there first. That's funny. What was that guy's name again? I'm gonna look that up.
Hopefully I say it right. Damon Imani.
Damon Imani. That's funny stuff.
Yeah.
That pronunciation was a bloodbath. Sorry.
Yeah.
I do love that we
Anytime
get
I-
to use bloodbath with jokes now. I do appreciate that.
Oh yeah. I just got gas yesterday, and that was a bloodbath.
All right. Do you guys want to play some trivia real quick? And
Let's
then
do
we'll
it.
move on to talk about Fani
I
Willis
tell
and
you
all
what,
that.
I would love to get dominated in trivia by Zane right now.
Yeah. I'm just glad that I'm not playing. So it's
It's
much
about
easier.
to be an
to-
absolute bloodbath.
It's gonna be bloodbath, absolutely. That'll be the least of it.
All right. It's going to be a lot slower this time because I'm doing everything and I barely know what I'm doing. So bear with me, but here we go. The intro ran and I'm still not ready. All right. Libation trivia.
Business as usual.
Nearly as- yeah, not nearly as fancy as when Jake does it, but we're going to muddle through it. So the categories this time are Australia, the Beatles, and fantasy characters. The rules, 3 rounds. First round, 10 questions, 1 point each. Round 2, 5 questions, 2 points each. And round 3, just 3 questions, 3 points each. So that's where, big changes can be made and someone can come from behind and maybe even beat Zane. When you want to chime in, when you want to answer, cover your camera with your hand. Just raise your hand and I'll sort of try to be paying attention and see who did it first. But honestly, when I'm doing it, it shouldn't even count because I can barely keep score or read. So this is more of a scrimmage. And if you win, you are officially not a loser for the week when the rest of us are.
Sweet.
All right. So round 1, Australia. Question number 1. This see, if I'm looking over here, I can't see who chimes in. Give me a second. I'm gonna nope, that doesn't work. Whatever. I'll figure it out. This military operation conducted by the Australian Army in 1932 saw 986 enemies killed, with Australia suffering no losses, yet is still considered to be a loss. What was the enemy in this engagement? And I saw Zane already.
This would be the Emu War.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even display the question for people to read, but there it is. And it is true. It is emus. They basically were trying to reduce the population of emus, killed like 1,000 of them. And then it says minimal impact on the overall population.
Oh yeah.
So
fantastic
still considered
jerky.
a loss.
Fantastic jerky, but those bastards are vicious.
Yeah.
I mean, they will kick your chest through your back if you give them a chance.
Yeah, they can kill people.
Yeah.
Part
Apparently
of the
not many
motivation.
Australians, though. Yeah. How many Australians died in this exercise?
I don't think any Australians died unless the emus had citizenship. But
Yeah.
even still, like, I guess it was just a slaughter for no good reason, and the emus just carried on.
Well, it was 1932, so they couldn't shoot them with machine guns out of helicopters.
Not
You
yet.
know, like they do
anyway.
with the Boers in Texas.
So, I mean, one of the motivations was that their farms kept getting overrun by emus, and then the other motivation was it was essentially a Keynesian jobs program because it was the height of the Depression. You've got all these people out of work, and the politicians were like, "What should we do with all these men who are out of work? Let's have them go out and kill
Let's go
emus."
kill emus. It'd be funny if the ones that were raiding farms in Australia were just government agents dressed in emu costumes.
Yes, there you go.
Another
mate, I'll
jobs
give it a proper
program.
thumping.
All right, question 2. Let's see if I can make this one less of a disaster. It's not off to a good start. All right. Introduced in 1935 to control pest populations in sugarcane fields, this species has become one of Australia's most notorious invasive animals. What is the name of this amphibian, Zane?
That would be the cane toad.
Yes, cane toad.
What?
And you
How
can see
big
that-
is that?
It looks pretty gigantic.
That's a
I don't-
frog?
It's a toad.
God, wow.
Wow.
I feel like you should be familiar with toads by now. No shoes.
Yeah, that one's not wearing shoes either.
God.
I tell you what, frogs having sex in the summer is way too loud and they need to get a room.
Yeah.
You can hear them all across the lake.
Yeah, I've seen videos of people just like driving through Australia, swerving their car to hit these things. So, like, I
Wow.
was doing my part,
Wow.
gonna
They
kill
hate-
some
they hate
toads
'em.
on the way
Oh,
home.
God, that'll
Yeah.
make you slide, though. I mean, because
Yeah, that'd
frogs
be
and
gross.
rabbits just pop, and you just kind of slide.
Yeah, you've got to have good traction to make sure you don't slip on the frog entrails.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you have to have a Subaru, right?
I'm
They have that
drifting.
good traction
And this is
control.
a new advertisement for Subaru.
Right.
All right, next question. Kangaroos are famous for their strong legs and jumping abilities, but also have a lesser known defense mechanism. What unconventional strategy do they employ to protect themselves from threats? Zane.
I've definitely seen pictures of like kangaroos looking like they're boxing, so it's like punching people.
Probably, but that's not what I'm looking for. Binkley.
They bury their head in their pouch.
Ooh, that would be nice. I mean, but that is
Not
not
the right
I don't know
answer.
that that's true or what I'm looking for. All right, Steven.
They yell at you.
You know, that's probably true too. Again, when I wrote this one, I'm like, there's going to be a million true answers. And it's just not what I'm looking for. Binkley.
They blow their enemy.
You know, I don't know if that would repel the threats.
It'd
They'd
surprise
probably
them.
coming back.
Surprise the
Yeah,
hell out of them.
definitely. Okay.
Sun
Any
Tzu
last
says,
guesses?
"Know your enemy." Binkley says, "Blow your enemy."
Steven.
They beat the ground with their tail.
No, not a beaver. I mean, they might do that. I have no idea. But all right, last guess to Zane if you want it.
I got nothing.
They play dead.
No, they lead predators into water and then hold them under to try to drown them.
Fucking psychopaths, man.
Savage.
Yeah.
Gee,
Oh
they put
my
bags
God.
under their head and shit and then go kill their family.
I was gonna put up a picture of it, but I only could find pictures of them doing it to dogs, and I'm like, that's too traumatic.
Yeah,
I can't look
dude,
at
that's-
that. So
I've seen the
Wow.
guy fighting a kangaroo after one was fucking with his dog. There's a video
Yeah.
on YouTube.
yeah, I think one of them they're in water because the kangaroo had gone into water, the dog followed it, and then it's like got the dog in a headlock trying to drown it. Good news is they don't seem very good at it. They don't really understand where the water's surface
Yeah.
is.
Wow.
But that guy came and just clocked it. And,
That's
you know,
wild,
got his
man.
dog back.
So if you have a choice of babysitters between Casey Anthony and a kangaroo, you want Casey Anthony.
Yeah.
Sadly enough.
Well, especially if you're near water. Yeah.
She's hotter anyway.
Right.
All right. Question. Oh wait, am I playing the music? Because like this
No.
is probably what.
No,
Oh,
we
man.
we
Trivia's
we need
ruined.
some fat rat.
Yeah. Is it playing? There we go. I knew something was off. Like I felt uneasy here with the fat rat playing. There we go. That's so much better. I feel comfortable and at home now. All right. Question 4. What ingredient, a byproduct of the beer brewing process, was repurposed in the 1920s to create the iconic Vegemite? Zane.
I was gonna say Vegemite, but is it yeast?
Yep, brewer's yeast. That was one that I had heavily rigged towards Steven. I figured he would know that one.
Yeah, but Zane hit it before you even finished the question. So
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I totally knew that one. If Zane hadn't got it so quickly, I would have totally.
Yeah.
Zach, I
Zane
think the audio is cutting your audio out a little bit with the bandwidth. Does it sound like that? Sound like you were. Maybe that's on my end, but it sounded like you were kind of glitching in and out.
Did you guys hear anything, Steven or Zane?
It sounded like that, but it's not happening now.
Yeah, it's not happening now.
All right. It might be happening. Who knows? Because I guess my computer might be transmitting everything right now. I have no idea.
It sounds good now. It sounds good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's the only reason you didn't get that one.
That's right. Yeah, I got screwed on that one. I'm protesting this one.
You're being penetration tested. That's
yeah.
bandwidth drop.
Again, I have no idea if I'm keeping score right, but we're pretty certain Zane is winning.
Yeah, a 0 here, and I think 0 for Steven as well.
Okay. Well, here's another one for Zane. Question 5. Two mammals are known to lay eggs instead of giving live birth. Name them. And I think I saw Steven this time first, or at least I'm going to say I did.
Yeah. Let me see here. Two mammals are known to lay eggs instead of giving live birth. I'm going to go with the platypus and
I can tell
ostrich?
Zane knows it. Zane knows the answer.
Not the ostrich.
Uh,
It's not a mammal.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you a half a point just because screw Zane. You know, he doesn't need the full point.
Yeah,
There we go.
We need a
All
handicap.
right, Zane.
I think the other one is the echidna.
Yeah. Platypus.
How do you even know that? That's crazy.
So
I literally learned
reason
about
I know
echidnas
this
when
one
writing this.
is this exact question came up at a bar trivia that I went to a couple.
You should be
months
on
ago.
Jeopardy, man. I bet you dominate bar trivia.
So I made it to an in-person audition for College Jeopardy back when I was in college. but
Interesting.
You have to have like charisma and stage presence to actually get picked. So naturally, I was not.
That's why you're on libations trivia.
Yeah,
Dude, you would have dominated college because, like, I'm even good at College Jeopardy and I suck at trivia, but like, you would have definitely won for sure. All right.
The only Australia
Next.
questions I'm going to get are, what is somebody who listens to your show, Brad, who's from Australia? And I'll say Stella, and that's the only one I'll ever get about Australia. Is she would probably do very well at this.
She's probably going to be judging you really hard if she sees this. Like, she's a guest on your show and you don't know the first thing
I
about
don't know the first thing
echidnas.
about any of these things. Yeah, she would know all this stuff, obviously.
All right. Question. I don't know. We've done Georgia trivia before, and I still feel like I didn't know much of it.
I would fail all
So
of that also.
Well, hey, the white shrimp is now our official crustacean.
Why's it got to be white?
that the
That's
fairy
what we got out
shrimp?
of our legislative session this year.
Yeah. I want the Fani
Cool.
Willis shrimp.
Yeah.
All right. What is the name of the largest reptile species which resides in Australia? Zane,
The crocodile.
can you be more specific? There's lots of crocodiles.
The Australian crocodile.
Oh, you beat me to it.
All right,
That's not
crocodile. I mean, it is a crocodile. I feel like I've given that away, but it is a certain kind. But I'll just give it. Okay, unless Steven gets it here, I'll just give it to Zane.
The giant crocodile.
The giant crocodile. No, it is a saltwater crocodile.
Why is that crocodile about to murder people on a? Is that a golf course?
Potentially. I think that's probably the Australia Zoo, which
Yeah.
they have a croc pen. You know, that's where like Steve Irwin famously would ride his motorcycle in and
Such an
tease them
interesting choice of profession. Is I'm going to go into
Yeah.
taming crocodiles.
Yeah. I'm going to stick
I
my
mean-
thumb in his butthole.
I mean, but look at the size of that thing
That's
compared to that
huge,
dude,
man.
and he doesn't look like a small guy. So
There's a video going around X the other day. I don't know how old it was, but it was this old man walking his puppy, and the crocodile or alligator, I don't know which one it was, came out and snatches the dog, and the old man goes in, and you see him, you know, just fighting. He's got old man strength fighting the beast, and he pulls his dog out and saves his dog and throws that thing back in the
Jeez.
water.
Wow.
it was probably an alligator. I don't know if I could fight a croc. Well, I mean, I definitely couldn't fight an alligator, but
What's
I
the difference
especially
in the
couldn't fight a
two?
crocodile.
Well, one of them you
Think-
see later, and one of them you see after a while.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
No,
then
it has something to do-
crocodiles are way bigger.
What is the crocodile has when their mouth is closed, you can see their teeth.
Yeah, they have one tooth that sticks out on both sides. If you get that close, though, you're probably screwed already.
Yeah, and the alligator tends to have like a more narrow head, I think, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're much smaller. But all right, question number 7 about Australia. All right, I have not been paying attention to the audience, unfortunately. So I have no idea if they're beating us or I'll try to do better.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely beating Binkley and Steven. Oh,
Yes.
Steven, you have 0.5 now. So,
There we go. Holding up to my title here. Second place, baby.
all right. Question number 7. The world's longest fence is in Australia, and it's designed to keep predators from entering the livestock grazing lands. What is it called? Zane.
The Great Barrier Fence.
It is not the Great Barrier Fence, but it is a Great Barrier Fence. But any idea what it's called, Binkley or Steven? Steven?
The Southeastern Grazing Fence.
No. A little more creative than that, but not by much.
Oh, wait, more
Bink-
creative. Because I was just going to say the big fence, but that's not very creative at all.
No. All right, I'll give a hint, and that it's named after a certain animal that they were trying to keep out to protect their livestock. Steven?
The Emu Fence.
No.
The kangaroo
Binkley.
fence.
They would just hop it. You know,
Yeah,
that would
that's
do
true.
nothing for them.
I get a
Maybe.
ladder and climb it.
Yeah. Any last guesses, Zane?
The Echidna Fence.
Aw, you don't want to keep them out. They look kind of cute, but no, it is the dingo fence.
That is very, very racist.
Yeah, and is it? I didn't know that, but I'll accept it. So apparently, it is the world's longest like man-made structure.
Really?
I mean,
How long is it?
Yeah.
Longer than the Great Wall of China?
It's
I guess
longer
Shaq's
than
dick isn't man-made.
it is longer than the contiguous part of the Great Wall of China. But if you add up all the branches, then yeah, I guess Great Wall has me there. So
Wow. Okay.
I'm coming at this from a Western perspective. All right, we don't think about Asia.
The dingo fence is the only fence visible from space,
Wow. Interesting.
which is a fact that I just made up.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think Great Wall is visible from space either. So.
Shaquille O'Neal's penis visible from space.
It definitely is. Yeah. All right. See, I think I've forgotten to score the last 2.
It doesn't matter.
At least.
This,
It
this,
doesn't
this
matter.
is
This
a
is-
bloodbath. This is a predetermined
This is
bloodbath.
what's that like improv show that was the points don't matter with Drew Carey?
Whose
Whose
line
line
is
is
it
it
anyway?
anyway?
Yeah, this is basically whose line. I'm
Yeah,
just like
there
a
you go.
million points to
You're
Binkley
Drew
for a
Carey.
good guess. All right. Which nation's capital is geographically closest to Perth, Australia's westernmost major city? Zane?
Madagascar.
No. And that hurts my brain. I don't even know how that makes sense. But you are smarter than me, so I'll accept that makes some sense. Steven?
Indonesia?
Yes, it is
Yeah.
Jakarta,
Yeah.
Indonesia.
He was very surprised. That you got it.
Hey, all those geography classes paid off.
All right. Question number 9. Who became the CEO of the Australia Zoo at the age of 19? Continuing their family's legacy of wildlife and stuff. Steven.
Steve Irwin's son. I don't know. But I don't know his first name, but it's Steve Irwin's son.
I do know his name. It's not him.
Okay.
His name's
That's-
Robert Irwin.
Yeah, that's the only answer I had too, possibly.
Yeah. Anyone else? Zane?
Steve Irwin's daughter.
Do you know her name?
Bindi Irwin, is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, he
Andy
does have a
Irwin.
daughter. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's apparently also the youngest person to ever win a daytime Emmy. I don't know
Wow.
what for, but she did. She was 9.
Wow. Is that when her father died around then?
I'm not sure.
Was she on Umba Macumba?
What?
I don't know what that is.
That sounds racist.
Yeah, that's definitely racist.
The Disney show, the little puppet. I don't know what it's supposed to be. Some kind of animal from the outback.
You watched a different era of Disney than we did.
Apparently. Yeah.
All right, last question about Australia, and then we can move on to the Beatles. So, what
great.
term is that better?
I'm kidding.
What term do Australians colloquially use to refer to British people? Oh, Zane, sorry.
Limeys.
No. Binkley?
Faggots.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of that going around, but Steven?
Blokes?
No. That feels like just general
British
dude
people.
or guy, but I don't really
What
have
would
a
we
hint
call
for this
them?
one because
Is
it would.
it Brits? It's not Brits. Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't know this one, so I just figured this would be a Zane or nobody question, probably. All right,
This
I'll
one,
just-
I figure most of these would be Zane or
Yeah. All right, Steven,
Tossers.
Saucers.
toss out.
Tossers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. Oop, there's the question. Palms or palmies?
Really? Oh,
And
my.
I asked why. Well, I was looking up why, and I think it's one of those that's not really known, but people speculate that it means prisoners of mother. What does that frick is the S stand for?
Satan?
Maybe it's supposed to be POMES, prisoners of Mother England.
Ah.
So, but then there was also like speculation that it was something else or something to do with pomegranates. So nobody really knows. I think it's just one of those like they started calling them names back in the 30s or whatever and never stopped.
Yeah.
Anywho. All right, let's move on to the Beatles, which is worth 2 points each. And I tried to be more like interesting than just like, what song is this? So we'll see. Although I feel like I always wildly get trivia wrong, like either way too hard or way too easy. So who knows? All right, question 1. What controversial album cover released in 1966 features the band members dressed in smocks, surrounded by meat and dismembered baby dolls?
I don't know any Beatles albums.
It's you can name the album or you could just name what people call this, which doesn't really seem like you know that either. So I don't know if it matters, but all right, Zane.
I think that actually may have been a little bit of a hint because if it's a album that's known by something that's not actually called, would it be the White Album?
No. I just mean that the cover has its own name. Like people refer to the cover as like the whatever cover rather than naming the name.
Sergeant
Binkley.
Pepper.
No.
I was going by answering the comment. That wasn't mine.
Well, you know what? Like, let me look at that actually, because they might know it. And then go ahead, Steven.
The Bloodbath album.
Pretty close, honestly. I think we could coin that. So let's see. Nobody.
And that's just
from...
the beginning.
Well, this one's only 5, fortunately. All right, I'm just gonna reveal it. I don't, unless you got one more, Zane.
Revolver.
No. All right, it is the Butcher cover, and it's from Yesterday and Today. And you can see like they have meat on them, and they have like just baby dolls with their heads popped off sitting there. And it's not really like a horror film or like too disgusting, but apparently freaked people out at the time, especially in America. DJs refused to play it, some of them, and they recalled every single one. So now, like if you had this album, it's worth like tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Well, look at those haircuts.
And, yeah. And they also, when they recalled it, they just pasted another cover album on top of some of the recalled and put them back out there. So those are worth just a ton too. If you have one that's like a paste over, but
Yeah. You guys think the
Wow.
Beatles were a psyop, controlled, put out there to control culture?
honestly,
Never
don't know
really
enough
thought about
them.
it, to be honest.
What does Yoko Ono think about it?
Well, maybe she was their handler. I don't know. I mean, yeah, they're
She's
very
got some
powerful.
noises to make
They
about
were
it.
more popular than Jesus,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
which some would say that Taylor Swift is approaching that status.
Jeez. Yeah.
All right. Question number 2 for the Beatles. What practice did the Beatles travel to India to study under Maharishi Yogi in 1968, Zane?
I forget if there's an exact name, but it's like yogiism or shamanism or something. I don't know.
He was trying to India to study under
It's
Maharishi.
not what we're looking for. I feel like saying yogi-ism when his
Oh
name
wait,
is
that was in the
Yogi.
question.
Steven?
Taoism?
No. I don't know if Taoism would be India, but I don't know enough about it.
Oh, it's definitely there.
Okay. Any guesses, Binkley?
Some sort of martial art that I don't know the name of, or some sort of way to control your brain, or like Buddhists do, but I don't know an official name.
Probably close. Not martial art, but I don't think the Beatles were that tough. They didn't,
It didn't look very tough.
Zane.
Doing a shed load of drugs.
I mean, in reality, that's probably what happened.
Build up
so.
a tolerance, yeah.
All right, so I'll just reveal it here. Transcendental.
Okay.
meditation.
Meditation. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think you guys will get this one. Question number 3. In a
Don't
newspaper
overestimate
interview,
us.
what controversial remark by John Lennon sparked protests, death threats, and ultimately marked the end of their touring career? Zane.
Oh, Steven, too bad that he's more popular than Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're more popular than Jesus now.
You
Really
hint
pissed
earlier.
people off.
Yeah.
All right.
You're
so what
welcome
is
for
that?
that one,
That's
Zane.
Thank you.
Do you guys like the Beatles, the music?
No.
I mean, Eleanor Rigby, total jam. Not many other. I don't know. There's not many other songs I can just be like, oh, I love that song. Come Together. I mean, that's awesome. There's like 3 or 4 songs. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I was never an aficionado.
Yeah.
I was more in Pink Floyd.
Some people think Paul McCartney is dead and has been replaced.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah, I like the Beatles, but I'm not, like a super fan. I probably know all the same like popular songs that everybody else knows and not like their deep cuts. But also I have like, I guess the heretical view that I really like the Across the Universe covers, like the movie that came out in like 2010. I like that way better than the actual Beatles. So it's just like random actors singing the songs, and I
Yeah.
feel like they are better singers, but the Beatles were really good writers. So, which I guess if you do enough drugs, you will write some pretty cool stuff every now and then.
there you go. Or you eventually turn into a commie after you rot your brain enough.
Yeah.
All I know is that Imagine is economically illiterate.
Yeah, that was stupid. All right. Question number 4. Which Beatles song was banned by the BBC at the beginning of the first Gulf War in 1990, 22 years after its release, due to its politically controversial lyrics?
Taxman.
Not Taxman.
What's it called? I think
Steven?
Imagine.
Yeah, that's the one. I was
No,
thinking about.
not
Sorry.
Imagine. Any guess, Binkley?
I don't really know any of the Beatles songs outside of Imagine.
Okay. Well, if you don't know any songs, I don't know if I can help you, but the hint is that it really doesn't make any sense for the Gulf War conflict that I'm aware of, but it has to do with, I guess, an adversary of the West. Zane?
Back in the USSR.
Ah.
Yeah,
yes,
back in the
yes.
USSR.
Okay.
For some reason, they needed to ban that in 1990 when, the USSR was dissolving. So,
Yeah.
All right. Last question about the Beatles, which did not seem like much of an improvement over the Australia category. My bad. During what famous event staged by John Lennon and Yoko Ono was the iconic song Give Peace a Chance written? Zane?
I believe that would be the bed-in.
Yeah, bed-ins for peace. Where they just laid in bed and had reporters come interview them about laying in bed.
The con has never changed, has it? You have the die-ins they do today. It's just a bunch of con artists.
Yeah. All right, I'm looking real quick at the comments.
Somebody
I don't think
says to tell the gator story. Steven, do you have a gator story?
We were on a family vacation down at St. George's Island, Port St. Joe, and there's a state park, and we go down to the little national park area, National Wildlife Refuge at the end of the island, at the very west end of the island, and there's a spot where you could rent kayaks and canoes. And so we rent a canoe, and at the time, my oldest son was like 3 or 4. He was really young. So we rent a canoe, we go out there, and we're about to shove it into the water, and Mary's like, hey, do you want to look at the map? And I was like, I got this. I draw maps for a living. I can find my way around. And so, we get out there, we start going. I'm like, oh, hey, look at this little inlet. Let's go in here. And so we get in, and I noticed that, there was land kind of on 3 sides of us, and we were headed towards like a big drainage ditch.
Tell them the gator story.
I am, honey.
And, that was Mary in the comments and in person.
Right. And so we're rowing this canoe, and all of a sudden, she's not really paying attention because, we had a couple of beers. We didn't have a lot of sleep that night. We're on family vacation.
Women don't pay attention to threats anyway.
It's hot. It's like 90 degrees outside. And we're going, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wait a second. The water's really still here all of a sudden. Like, we've gotten off the current, and I'm looking around. I'm like, I just got this feeling like I don't belong here. And then I look over to the right, and I see these eyeballs pop up above the water. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We keep going. And then I see like 2 or 3 more. Boop, boop, boop. And I'm like, hey, honey. She goes, yeah. I was like, you see that? She goes, see what? I was like, oh, the birds. The birds are flying over. She goes, oh, great. I was like, hey, I'm going to tell you what. I need you to put the paddle on your left side. Stay on your left side and just dig in and move as hard as you can. We're going to do a 180, and we're going to get the hell out of here. She goes, how many are there? And then I look around again, and I'm like, dozens.
It's terrifying.
We were in a nest. We rode our canoe up in these breeding grounds.
With my baby in that kayak.
Yes, with the baby in the kayak.
Oh my God.
and we're going back, and the alpha males, you could tell because they were huge, were escorting us off of the breeding grounds. And she's just like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if they start snapping at us? And I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to hop in and wrestle one. Just keep going. We got out of there. But, it flipped her out way more than me. Because I'm just like, we're in a 10-foot canoe. The 2 big boys are maybe 12 feet long.
That's nothing.
We're good. Yeah, we're good. It was pretty funny though. And then we went back and looked at the map, and then exactly where we went on the map was a big red X. So do not go there.
Alligators don't go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought giant X's on maps were usually good things.
Yeah, it's where the gold is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the
All right.
Bitcoin,
Last three questions, and I have not been keeping score right, but it looks like either Steven or Zane can win. So sorry, Binkley, even if you know all of these, you're screwed.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know if Steven has a great shot of winning either.
Hey,
He's doing better than me. But
all right. Question number 1. Johnny Depp modeled his character Jack Sparrow after which rock guitarist? Binkley.
Oh, is it Mick Jagger? Is that the right one? No,
Mick Jagger.
Guy. Fuck, I know.
Steven.
I know.
Steve Tyler.
Yes. No, it's not that one either.
It's not him either, but I feel like
I know exactly who this is. God damn it, he's decrepit right now. The fuck is it? He is. I can't remember his name. I know who he is. I can't remember. It's not Mick Jagger. It's not Steve Tyler.
Let's see. Do you have a guess, Zane?
My mind has gone completely blank of any rock bands.
Yeah. All right. I'll just say guitarist from the Rolling Stones, if that helps. Steven.
Oh, no, we already said Mick Jagger. That's not it. Damn it.
Well, I guess Mick Jagger. Okay, he's not the singer. I guess maybe a backup singer. I don't know, but mainly guitarist. You guys are gonna feel so silly.
No, I know. I'm gonna feel stupid when I hear this because I know I can picture him in my head right now.
Yeah, I mean, he does look like. I think I have a picture on the next page too. Like he does kind of look Jack Sparrow like.
Keith Richards.
Yep, Keith Richards.
Nice.
All right, he didn't chime in, but I don't care.
Sorry.
He got it.
That right.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Yeah, look at
points.
Yeah, no, it's
Boom.
he actually plays a pretty good dad, although they probably just had him play himself.
Yeah, so he played Jack Sparrow's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw some picture of like a pirate that kind of looked like Keith Richards. I'm like,
Yeah, no, they have him dressed up just like Jack Sparrow, and they have this weird like, they both do the same shit, and it's a really trippy scene.
All right, question number 2. In the world of Peter Pan, what is required for Tinkerbell to maintain her powers and continued existence? Zane.
Pixie dust.
Oh man.
Nope.
No, that dick.
What? Not it.
Is it that dick?
Steven.
Happiness?
Nope. Binkley.
Dreams.
No. You guys are all kind of on the right track. Zane.
Or is it like belief?
That is one of them. So I'll give somebody else half credit if they can come up with the next one. And I don't know who I saw first. So let's go to Binkley.
Hope.
Well, that's kind of the same thing as. Oh no, it's not the same. But no, not it. So belief.
Laughter.
Laughter is so close, but not it. I'm just gonna have to give the whole thing to Zane. Dang it. Applause.
Applause.
Yeah.
Oh, she's
Clap for her.
She's like she should be on TikTok.
Yeah, basically.
Wow, she's just like Jeb Bush.
Yeah. That'd be a great remake of Peter Pan with Jeb Bush's Tinkerbell.
Please clap. I'm dying. All right. Last question. And I'm pretty sure Zane already wins. So if I can even count, who knows? In The Princess Bride, what is this distinctive characteristic that Inigo Montoya is looking for in the man who killed his father? Zane.
6 fingers.
Yep. 6 fingers on his right hand.
Wow.
So there we go. That is it for trivia. And again, Zane dominated, even though it was kind of rough with my questions. So where is that graphic for Zane?
It's better that the questions are super hard because it gives me more of an excuse as to why I lost.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
I'm not the best person to write these.
Zane, I want to get you on Jeopardy. I want to do an effort, and I want to get you back on the auditions for Jeopardy.
I took the qualifying quiz for the main show probably about 1.5 years ago now. Probably time that I take it again. But if they ever see this podcast, I think I'd be automatically taken out of consideration.
So I don't know. Would Ken Jennings hate us or love us? Like I don't have a read on him like Alex. So
he's gotten in some hot water.
He's got some trouble
because in the early days of Twitter, he put out some pretty edgy tweets. I think
that's why they wanted Blossom to do it instead of him.
Is Blossom the Maya Bloodjet? I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, I don't know how to say her name either.
She seemed pretty cool. I don't know anything about her, but what is Blossom?
Blossom is a show from the 90s where she played this. She was like a teenager. She dances a lot. And so before the Big Bang Theory, she was Blossom.
Okay. I was thinking she was like a live action Powerpuff Girl or something.
Kind of.
All right. So that is it for trivia. Oh, wait. Well, we kind of got to wait for Steven on. No, we don't have to wait for Steven. Screw him having to pee.
He got second place in trivia. I love you got that. That's funny.
He predicted it. He was second place last time, too. So,
Yeah.
All right. So it is time now for Drunkard of the Week, which I think Steven actually submitted to us. So how dare him not be here for it?
I am not fucking drunk.
My teeth are blue.
Every pretty girl deserves to go to a ball.
This is everything about it's a clam. I love it.
I gotta be honest with you, I feel like I'm a little bit too drunk to stand up. On Tuesday, asshole.
I'm drunk right now.
I have a quick question. Simple. Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal.
witness the president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO, and conspiracy.
What is it? What is the crime, sir? Specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is the
It's a category of crimes that you're then charged
You
under
have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir, please
Want me to name the exact statute under RICO?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 18
All right, sir. I reclaim my time.
lawyers that went to law school.
I
I'll leave
reclaim
it
my
up to
time.
you guys
Okay,
to
thank
define
you,
the
sir. I
statute
reclaim my
under
time.
RICO.
Clearly.
He got 3 charges deep, and she was still like, "Name a crime." Name a crime.
And RICO's not a crime. We've now, according to AOC, Trump's innocent. So
RICO in and of itself is not a crime. He was right. It is a whole category of crimes.
Yeah.
And he was starting to get into the subcategories, that are under the RICO statute. The RICO statute was rolled out in the 80s. Thank you, Reagan, butthole. It was designed to roll up the big drug dealers. It was never meant to be anything.
It was for mobsters.
Yes. Yeah. It was never meant to be politically motivated. It was never meant to roll up politicians like they're trying to use it now. But Hunter Biden is doing all the things that the crime mobsters and the drug dealers were doing in the 80s.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy.
As a quasi-politician.
What's crazy about it is Biden, the Biden family, when you actually look at RICO statutes and the racketeering and crimes underneath them, there is so much more of an actual case that crimes have been committed than when you look at the one in Fulton County. See, RICO charges and the crimes underneath it, the racketeering and whatever else, they rely on what it enables the prosecutor to do is turn what's called overt acts in furtherance of a conspiracy into evidence of a crime that otherwise, in any other legal standard, would be meaningless. So a guy could be tying his shoe on one side of the street, and Fani Willis or somebody could say, so-and-so, Donald Trump was tying a shoe, which was a signal to Rudy Giuliani, who was across the street in a hotel looking with binoculars, and that was a signal for him to tell the insurrectionists to go commit the insurrection. Therefore, it is evidence of furtherance of a conspiracy and overt act. And when you look through the indictment against Trump, that's why you have things like tweets that Trump made, comments that he made where he's simply promoting Newsmax. Just anything can be roped in underneath this RICO category of crimes that Fani Willis has made a name for herself abusing this to basically build up her career. And yet when you see the Biden family actually have evidence of gang mob activity, AOC is looking for a soundbite here to try and use her. She's better at doing media than that guy Bubalinsky is, and she knows it'll be clipped by the left-wing media. And so that's what she was doing there. She knew what she was doing, and nobody cares that Biden's actually doing real shit.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
actually selling crack, gun running, prostitution stuff, 10% for the big guy. Hunter Biden actually had some kind of a stake in what's going to be the largest LNG port in the world if they build it in Ukraine. And then he's on the board of Burisma.
Yeah, but he was only doing that to stop Putin, though.
Right. Yeah, and then he's on the board of Burisma, like the largest gas company there.
And that's what he claimed. He actually said that he was only on the board of Burisma. He said this recently, a few weeks ago, because he was trying to stop Putin.
Interesting.
Well, before it was just because he's a smart guy. Like, of course he ended up on a Ukrainian energy board. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Like, I would expect Zane to be there any day now. He's a smart guy.
Poroshenko
still waiting on the phone call. Yeah, but so, as Steven and Binkley were saying, like, I believe that, the entire point of RICO was, it's too hard to charge all these mob bosses with their actual crimes. So instead, we're going to make up a bunch of auxiliary crimes and tangential crimes, and then just charge them and arrest them for that. Because we know that they're doing all this other stuff, but we can't. It's too hard to prove it. So what AOC has really done here is, without realizing it, kind of turned into a libertarian, because she's exhibiting a very common law, natural law understanding of what crime is. Because she was like, oh, well, did he steal something? Did he shoot somebody? Things that the normal person would actually think are crimes, and is then confused when confronted with these very obscure RICO statutes. And she's like, well, this doesn't sound like a crime to me. And actually, I think that we would agree with AOC that a lot of the crimes under the RICO Act are just made up nonsense.
Yeah, now I'll agree with whatever AOC wants me to agree with. I'm going to be honest with you.
If she's pouring me drinks, absolutely. She's a great bartender. Yeah.
So you guys talking about drunk of the week. Speaking of RICO, there was some testimony, I think it was today, in the Young Thug RICO trial, which Fani Willis also brought in Fulton County. And one of the guys on the stand, I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name was, I don't know his name, but he was on the stand today.
Older Thug.
Did you hear the testimony where they said that thug is an acronym for truly humble under God?
Right. Okay, so the guy was something Bean was his name. Adrian Bean was on the stand for questioning, and
Never heard of her.
during it, he said, "I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to go to sleep on y'all. I ain't gonna lie."
Well, it's like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. It's like they had guests like Zoom, or not guests, I guess, but like witnesses zooming in, and one guy was like vaping in his car, and then when he was like got perturbed, he's like just shuts the video off and drives away.
Warrant, put a word out for, like, what do you do now? 'Cause you can Zoom court.
People come into court to drop a guest verse on the testimony.
Yeah. With a name like Adrian too, he's probably like the toughest guy on the block. He has like some really cool street name that they just can't use in court, and he's like the scary guy probably.
Yeah, let's see what he looks like. Hey, here, I'll share the screen to show you what. I don't know if this is Young, what's his name, or the other guy, but whoever it is, they have a very colorful outfit on. That's for sure. Which I don't know.
Yeah. So here's some acronyms that have come out, throughout this Young Thug case too. So Thug, truly humble under God, and these are arguments that his attorney has made in court. Okay, BANG, BANG stands for building accountability, normalizing gentleness.
Yeah.
Smoke, like, I'm going to smoke you, fool. Seeking missions of kindness everywhere.
Wait, these are the explanations for the terminology used in the raps?
Yes. Yes, his attorney's trying to whitewash all of his jargon. Yeah. And then gang means great advocates nurturing growth.
Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah, I think that's Young Thug we're looking at on the screen here.
Yeah, he's wearing.
Why does it look like he's wearing goggles?
Yeah. Okay, here's the guy saying it.
Can I get the water or something? I'm so high right now, y'all. I'm about to go sleep on y'all now.
I'm about to go sleep on y'all's ass.
Yes, you may. You can take a break soon. Hang on.
He's already impossible to hear because he's wearing a mask.
He's wearing a COVID mask. You got a gangster wearing a COVID mask?
Wow.
They bring him water. It'd be funny if they handed him a vape. Yeah, how's he going to drink that water?
He's just going to pour it into the mask and lap it up. Yeah, that dude is definitely faded. He's not doing well. He's gonna forget where he is by the time this is over.
Yeah. How is
That
this?
is amazing.
Keep the ball rolling.
Keep the ball rolling.
Mr. Coco, if you could just show me where you stopped again. Remind me.
How's he get a remember?
349.97, Your Honor. Play further right from me. All right.
When your wife was speaking at some point around the...
And this came, it says at the end of the tweet, shout out to Thugger Daily. So that's the
Thugger Daily.
journalist. The journalist staying on top of this. Shout out to Thugger. Yeah.
They continue questioning him as though he's going to remember any of that. What's interesting about this case, and this is something that Trump's team alluded to, that maybe Fani Willis was sleeping with a gangster early on, but there are like 20 or so members of this gang, at least they say, who are being prosecuted here, and one of them who is a member is not being prosecuted. And the reason that one is not being prosecuted is because Fani Willis brought this indictment, and she was the defense attorney back in, I think, 2019 for the one who they left out of the prosecution. So she could have allowed somebody else to prosecute them and gotten all of them in on it, but she wanted to do it herself because she's the RICO queen. And so she just leaves out the one who apparently was just as involved as the others because she defended him back in 2019. She's a corrupt cunt, in my opinion.
Yeah. So let's talk about her now. That's, what I feel like has been your specialty recently, Brad, and you've been really covering this.
Well,
and you were
Fani,
correct on
Fani.
every prediction you made,
Don't
as far
church
as
that.
I can
It's
tell.
not Fani, it's Fanny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she
it's
calls
definitely
herself
Fani.
Fanny. Yeah, she calls herself
But
Fani.
I mean, I thought you were pretty bold for like making predictions. I almost never do that. I don't want to be wrong publicly, and you were 100% correct. I don't think there was a single thing you were wrong about.
No, I was pretty right on this one. I've been wrong about things before, but this one to me, I was just highlighting the evidence that was out there, which as soon as the indictment came out and the judge that was randomly appointed to it, they say, which I don't believe that this was random at all, was a judge that was given his seat as a young judge, Judge McAfee, by Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp was pro-questioning the election before, I think, December 2021. Then his daughter's boyfriend got into a weird car accident and died. I don't know if there's a conspiracy there or not. All I know is that immediately after that, Brian Kemp became adamantly opposed to questioning the election, to the point of where he did not let people who had voter integrity T-shirts come into a fish fry back in August for the GOP in Georgia because he couldn't deal with it. They turned these people away at the door. People associated with Garland Favorito's group. They said, turn your shirts inside out or change your shirts. You can't come in. Brian Kemp doesn't want you in here. So Brian Kemp is not with Trump on this. He's with Fani Willis. Brian Kemp is CNN's favorite Republican right now. He's the model they want. So he appoints this guy, McAfee, who's a very young judge, even though he looks older, and this guy's up for re-election in Fulton County. So right off the bat, there's a conflict of interest. To keep his job, he has to, win the votes of people in Stacey Abrams' country. And if you are to dismiss her outright, what's going to happen? You're going to be branded a racist. You're going to be branded a Trumper. And he probably doesn't want that living in Fulton County. He doesn't want people coming to his house and harassing him. So that's already going to be a challenge there. And then you have the fact that he actually worked underneath, and not as literally as Nathan Wade did, I don't think anyway. I don't know if he was physically underneath Fani at any point in time. But he reported to Fani at the district attorney's office. He donated to Fani's campaign to win the district attorney's seat in 2020. Everything about this guy, I said from the beginning, yeah, Fani Willis should be removed, but the one who really needs to be removed is the Republican judge, the white guy who gives the appearance of fairness going on in this trial. And I knew that he was going to give an appearance of fairness. And he dismissed those 6 charges a couple weeks ago, the day before he actually made the decision not to remove Fani. And people were like, yeah, he dismissed these 6 charges. And I looked at the charges, and I talked about the charges the day the indictment was brought. And these charges were so bogus. Like, I called it out, and dozens of other people called it out the day the indictment came out. So the fact that he dismissed the charges is correct. But he should have done it on day one because he knew that they were bogus. Because one of the charges, when you break down the language of it, it literally charges Trump with trying to influence Brad Raffensperger to violate his oath of office, which is in violation of the law as well. And the evidence they give in the charge is a quote that they took from Trump. And in the quote, Trump actually tells Raffensperger to follow the law. So the charge is, and this is language, unlawfully is what Fani put in the indictment. Trump is guilty of the crime of unlawfully telling Brad Raffensperger to follow the law. I mean, it's such bullshit. It's unbelievable. And the entire indictment's like that. So he should not have, he allowed that to stay in there. And the fact that he actually dismissed that when he was at a point in time when he had no choice but try and create the illusion of fairness tells me that he's in the bag for Fani Willis, along with all of the other conflicts of interest. Now, he did not dismiss her. He got rid of Wade, which that was an obvious conclusion to that, in my opinion. And now it's moved on a little bit past that to where they have filed an appeal in the case, or they have filed Trump and the co-defendants' lawyers have filed a request to appeal McAfee's decision, and McAfee has granted that request. And this will allow them to take it to the appellate court in Georgia, and they will be able to review the decision. Trump and the defendants' lawyers say that it did not get rid of the appearance of impropriety by just getting rid of Wade. And a lot of people are very optimistic that this is going to turn out in favor of Trump. I never actually believed that any of these cases would go to trial before the election until the ruling not to disqualify Fani officially came down. And I see all of this as attempting to continue to carry on this illusion. The Georgia Court of Appeals has 10 days to actually file the appeal, and then the appellate court has 45 days to decide whether or not to take it on. And then regardless of that outcome, it will be appealed to the Supreme Court. But what the judge included in his order that would allow them to make this appeal was the case is going to continue forward. The case is not going to stop. We're going to continue moving forward with everything. And that's an important point because that's not normal. Normally, when this happens, you stop everything. But he made sure that they would continue moving it forward. And then there was a story today where people who are familiar with Fani Willis, I hate those sources, but this is obviously true in my opinion, that they plan to press ahead to try and get the court date well ahead of November to take this thing to trial. And it would not surprise me if they still somehow pulled one off despite all of the appeals and everything and got this case to actual trial. Because if they want to really make a spectacle of things, then none of the other three trials would satisfy that. So the Fulton or the federal trial, which is on hold because of the immunity hearing, is you're not allowed to televise federal trials. It's illegal. So the other two cases aren't really related to January 6th. The Fulton case happened where the big lie originated, what they call the big lie. And I think Fani Willis makes herself the prosecutor instead of appointing someone else. She'll either make herself or Sonia Williams, which is another big fat black woman who was banging Nathan Wade in Cobb County before Fani Willis hired them both and said, you did really great at being corrupt in Cobb County. Why don't you come work in Fulton County? It wouldn't surprise me if Jack Smith hired Nathan Wade because of how good he's been at being corrupt, in my opinion. But I think Fani Willis, if we're looking for the most entertaining outcome and the biggest distraction, makes herself the prosecutor, and I think somehow or another they get the case to happen before the trial. This is not one I was confident in my prediction on what would happen with that disqualification trial. This one, I'm about 60-40 on this so far, but I think people are ignoring the fact that the judge is clearly on the side of the prosecution here, and he's going to do what he can to defeat all the delays Trump's team are trying to make happen and try and make this thing possible. Otherwise, none of the cases are going to happen before, and it all fall apart. And maybe that's what they want, but I think that they want to have one big grand O.J. Simpson-like trial to make a spectacle of everything before the election. And the one to do it with is the state January 6 charges in Fulton County. I think that's the best bet for that.
Well, and if the Fani don't quit, if the Fani don't fit, you must have quit.
Right. But the Fani don't quit either, I think, for Nathan Wade. Although I think Fani is like the black female Harvey Weinstein. I think that she She probably only gets sex when she's offering people jobs and coercing it. That's just my opinion. No defamation here. But again, I'm not afraid of being charged with defamation because George Stephanopoulos can go on ABC and say Trump is liable for rape over and over and over again, even though he's actually not found not liable for rape. And the actual charges on this recent story. It's just so wild the way the media has tipped everything in favor of the Biden and the Democrats, which always makes me hesitate because it makes me step back and say, is Trump and his team and everybody, maybe they're in on all of this. I don't know that I could ever know this, but what I do know is that this is a complete violation of the justice system, what we're seeing right now. And if they're doing it here, then they can apply it more broadly if these precedents are set. And I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or whatever. It's not good the way
well,
that
just look at the Alex Jones Sandy Hook case.
Awful.
Okay.
Crazy. Yeah.
They sued him for like $1 billion in damages. It's like the largest.
Totally.
It's like the largest like individual civil penalty ever in the history of the country, and it's because he ran with a theory that he was not the first. He did not pioneer this theory.
Right, and so that
and he brought like the people that did the theory before him. One of them was an investigator of the crime scene, Wolfgang Halbig, and he brought him on his show and allowed him to speak, and that was what they used as the fodder to nail him in court.
And it's a violation of free speech, too, because when you look at the history of false flags, and people don't want to talk about this. They get mad at you for talking about this. But false flags and atrocity propaganda are established in history. So people, I mean, you have the Nahira testimony for the Gulf War, where the girl testified to Congress that she saw babies being pulled out of incubators. And this was all created by a PR firm to get Congress and to give the George Bush one, the narrative to go around winning support for going in to the Gulf War. And it all turned out to be made up, scripted. It was like I saw it as an ambassador's daughter or something like that. It was just all totally bogus. And then the argument is, well, it actually happens. So this is a representation of what really happens, but even though it wasn't true. And this is like getting to what they're doing now, the normalization of propaganda and lying, because even though it might not be true in this instance, we know it's true in other instances. But then when you look at it, it seems to be made up in a lot of other fucking instances too. So I think we should really nail down on the provability of what they're telling us, which we saw a lot of this with the Ukraine shit in the beginning with the ghost of Kiev and all this other fucking bullshit. But if you actually say that, and this is what I think Alex Jones got charged with, you can prove in history that this shit happens. And that means it's not unreasonable to question that they would do it again when they're obviously lying all the time. And the guy's getting charged with whatever that is. And you also have Aaron Rodgers now they bring up as maybe a running candidate with RFK Jr., which is hilarious. I think Jesse Ventura would be a funnier outcome, but they start
the New York Jets. By the way, they came out like almost immediately. We're like, "Hey, Aaron, please don't."
But they're saying Aaron Rodgers once might have questioned Sandy Hook. Like they bring the whole same bullshit back.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, false flag propaganda has been going on at least since World War I, because there was British propaganda when Germany invaded Belgium, that the German soldiers were going around, massacring Belgian babies.
Yeah.
And then the guy that came up with the story later admitted, well, I didn't know of any particular instance of that happening, but I imagine that it must have been happening, so I just claim that it was anyway.
Absolutely. There was something called the Bryce Report that was put out, and this originated with the Wellington House in the British Wellington House. Is a propaganda house, which the Wellington House actually created they got all these literary agents from over there that Americans fawned over, and they sent them not just to America but around the world. Our sleeper cell agent they sent here was Sir Gilbert Parker was his name, from the UK, and he would write these letters back and forth. He was sent over here to get close to the intellectuals and to whisper in their ear propaganda to try to get America to become pro-war instead of being neutral. And he would write letters back and forth to Sir Lord Northcliffe. about how gullible Americans were, especially the intellectuals, because they thought they could never be fooled, and how easy it was to propagandize us. And they created something called the Bryce Report, which was the report on the German atrocities, which you're referring to. And most of those atrocities in this report, you can verify like almost none of them. It's almost entirely made up. Not to say there weren't awful things that happened, but the idea of the report was to win the world's support for engaging in World War I. And that, you know, you tell people that. There's a book called Falsehoods in Wartime. I can't remember the name of the writer, but it's from like 1940, and it just goes through all the falsehoods that various countries have told to get their public to support a war effort. They do the same thing over and over again. And I think the general public doesn't typically want to go to war, but the powers that be, they want war, so they have to make up these lies, sometimes based in truth, but they make up a lot of lies, which might even manifest these truths, that they bamboozle us over and over and fucking over again, and now they've kind of made it a crime to point this out when it comes to the case of Alex Jones.
I mean, for God's sakes, the concept of kindergarten came out of war.
Yeah, right.
It was the Franco-Prussian War. You know, they didn't like how the guys, you know, that had kids at home laid down their arms and said, "This isn't for me," and went home to their families.
Dude, it's crazy.
Like, you know what they need? They need an extra year of indoctrination.
Right.
And they came up with the concept of kindergarten.
It's wild. So check this out about Fani Willis here.
Hold on, real quick, Binkley. So I was just going to bring it back to the same thing anyway, but I wanted to get your opinion on this, and then I'm going to take a quick break, and you guys can keep it going. But he said, the judge, McAfee here, said there was a tremendous lapse in judgment, reasonable questions, and this is my favorite, an odor of mendacy, which is just a way of saying, or mendacity, which is just a way of saying, smells like bullcrap, like you're not telling the truth here. But still,
dude, I said,
fine.
Yeah, no, right.
So
before
it's like
this fucking
the whole Hillary
happened,
Clinton thing.
That's what
It's
I
like,
said. So that's exactly what I said. The day before this happened, I said, here's what's going to happen. He's going to give a ruling that's going to get rid of Wade. It's going to keep Fani, and it's going to be just like when James Comey came out and said the Hillary Clinton thing. He's going to say, she's guilty of everything you believe she's guilty of, but she's not guilty of any crime. It's like crazy that they're so... I mean, I don't blame the guy. If he wants to keep his job, that's fine. If he's actually going to help get rid of Fani, then he's some sort of op where for libertarians or whatever, or Republicans, that he did an amazing job. I just don't believe that that's the case. I believe that he's afraid of Fani Willis, and I think you could see that during the hearing. At one point, when Fani, I don't know if you guys watched the testimony, but Fani was on the stand, and one of the lawyers for Trump's co-defendant said, "May I approach, Your Honor, to show some evidence?" And Fani Willis, before Judge McAfee, says, "You may." It was as though she's the judge, and then she looks over, and Judge McAfee goes, "You may." I mean, he cucked him out in his own courtroom. I mean, over and over.
I saw the one where she was like, "I'm not on trial here. What are we even talking about? Trump is on trial right now."
And so here's the thing about this.
And it's like, no, you're kind of on trial too, lady.
Totally on trial.
Totally on trial. None of this correctly,
so
or even legally.
This chick has a history of corruption, and I think that what a lot of Democrats don't realize, unless they're from Atlanta, is that she prosecuted all of these teachers back in, I think it was like 2015 is when this case started, for the Atlanta public school cheating scandal. And she has held hostage, basically, innocent people that she has no evidence against for almost a decade. And there's an article, there's multiple articles in something called the Black Agenda Report. I don't have it pulled up right now, but this Black Agenda Report is not pro-Trump at all. They don't like Trump, but they also saw what she did firsthand in basically trying to imprison innocent black women for crimes they did not commit that fell under this Atlanta public school cheating scandal. And I remember when I heard about that, I just kind of took it wholesale, the propaganda messaging. But when I realized Fani Willis is the one who was the lead prosecutor on it, I started researching it. And I found out that the ones that were actually guilty, Fani went to them and said, "Look, we know what you did. We know that you changed the scores so that you can get a raise because of the federal money that comes down. But we'll let you walk if you just pick somebody to say is guilty." And some of the people who these guilty people pointed the finger at were elementary school teachers who did not get the benefit of the pay. So there's no reason for them to raise their kids' scores because it did not give them any financial benefit. They weren't subject to that rule. So there's no motive there. There's no evidence there. There's just the guilty people saying some random person that they know is in it or is guilty. And these people have maintained their innocence since that day. They've lost their license to teach. They've been held up in court. One of them wrote a book, has done many podcasts, and there's article after article from these things called the Black Agenda Report and others who are like, look, Fani Willis abuses the RICO statute and she persecutes black women, and they call her basically what they call the one guy, the blackface of white nationalism, kind of a similar thing to that, except that she's carrying on for her own rise in power. She's just trying to appeal to these white people who pull the strings. And at one point, they even say in this article, they say she is now prosecuting Donald Trump. And even though we don't like Trump, we have to assume that any prosecution Fani Willis is doing is being done nefariously, without evidence, and we need to give the benefit of doubt to whoever it is she's prosecuting. And so what I see in that is I see an opportunity for unity where people recognize who the corrupt actors are, even if you disagree with each other. And Fani Willis is a corrupt actor. And the fact that you have a bunch of people in the mainstream who are Democrats right now defending her, who are unfamiliar with her history, it's disgusting to me. They're willingly blind to this woman's history. It goes even deeper than that. Like, I can show you congressional reports of her father, who was running from the FBI and the feds for years when he started the Black Panthers in like the 60s or something like that. Go on. I've rambled way too much. I'll pull something up to show you guys.
He started the Black Panthers. I thought Larry Pinckney was one of those guys.
He started it in Los Angeles, like a Los Angeles chapter of the Black Panthers. And then after there was some conflict there, he went to what's it called? It's the one that John Lewis was in. I can't remember the name of it. It slips my mind. It'll come to me in a second. But what's interesting about all of this, I mean, there's so many interesting things.
It's really weird. John Lewis, I mean, you bring him up. It's really weird. Like, he obviously cut his teeth as being like a civil rights icon. He was in the marches. He was attacked by the dogs. He was sprayed by the fire hoses, all that kind of stuff. And then he gets in and he introduces legislation that keeps his people on the plantation.
Absolutely. And that is
it's so weird.
That is what I've talked about Stacey Abrams doing, and obviously Fani Willis does for a long time. They influence the black community to put their bodies on the line and do certain things, but they never do it themselves. They rise in power. They gain financial wealth. Stacey Abrams, a lot of people don't realize this, when she was at Spelman College, she led, and she took credit for this, a riot that caused a bunch of HBCU students over there at Spelman and the other schools nearby to go to a Korean grocery store across the street and terrorize. They went in there, they set it on fire, they looted it. The family went to the top of the building, and there's images of them at the top of the building. There's interviews from this guy from even a few years ago where he thought he was going to die, where they're throwing. Stacey Abrams led this. These weren't white people. This was the only non-black place to go to get groceries in the area, and Stacey Abrams, who bragged about it in many interviews, which is hard to find now, says she was the ringleader. She's the one who got on the phone to the news stations. She's the one who ended up getting a job in not the governor's office, but the police chief's office or something. She was on Oprah. Her career skyrocketed after that. Meanwhile, the people she organized based on a group that she is credited with founding that promoted violence, they all went and continued to burn the flag after she did. They got arrested. Some of their lives ruined. Stacey Abrams, meanwhile, her wealth is growing every single year by pretending to be a victim when she is no such thing. People don't realize that Stacey Abrams, Jussie Smollett, Fani Willis, their parents were all in the same. Yeah. They were all, maybe, I don't know Van Jones' family background, but those three in particular, their parents were all in the same Black Panther and Student for Nonviolent Coordinated Committee groups growing up. They all grew up learning how to be activists since they could walk. And I'd be, from looking into the history of them, it's almost impossible that they didn't cross paths in all of these groups. And this, I could go really deep into the Black Illuminati with all that, but I'll stay away from that. But so if you put that on screen right there, I'm going to show you something about Fani Willis's dad. So her dad testified during this hearing, and he had the greatest memory ever. He could remember very specific things from 4 years ago, 3 years ago, very specifically. And then when a lawyer asked him if he was briefed by Fani before his testimony, which would have been that day because he just flew into town, he said she might have been in the room when he was briefed, but he can't recall. He can't recall if his own daughter was in the room a few hours earlier, but every detail about what happened that would exonerate Fani from any charge, he could remember all of those. It's such a crock of shit. And the fact that the judge did not call that out, in my opinion, it just illustrates how corrupt he is. But when you look at this here, so this is a document that is a congressional hearing on riots from 1969, I believe. And John C. Floyd is her father. And what they list here is they list the things that they found on him when he was arrested. Him and a bunch of other Black Panthers, including Angela Davis. You guys know who Angela Davis is?
The name's familiar. It's not going to me right now.
She killed a cop or something.
Angela Davis.
Getaway driver.
She's a communist who was, yes, the getaway driver who was the first female ever to be on the FBI's most wanted list, the top 10. Not to say that I trust the FBI, but she was a getaway driver. She supplied the gun to somebody who killed some people.
She lives in Cuba now, I think.
Yeah, and so she was besties with Fani Willis's dad.
She also was the person who came up with that quote. It's like, we have nothing to lose but our chains, that Black Lives Matter was chanting. It's like they were chanting a quote from a communist who helped kill a cop and fled to Cuba.
Exactly.
I thought that we have nothing to lose but our chains goes all the way back to Karl Marx.
Yeah,
Shut up, Zane.
Very oppressed white man Karl Marx was here. But no, yeah. So you see here it says...
I thought it was Joe Biden, honestly.
In this report, it says a bank account for the SNCC was opened on February 26, 1968, with a deposit of $430, and it gives the bank name and the address, and it says that it was opened by John Floyd, Fani's father, and Angela Y. Davis, the woman that we're talking about right now. They had a bank account together. They were in charge of this branch of the Black Panther. They were leading the way with it. The reason they were arrested, by the way, is they were in New Orleans, and they were destroying a Black-owned hotel, and they tried to skip out on paying the bill, and they stole a bunch of stuff. And I read that, and I'm like, why didn't they just stay in a white-owned hotel if they were going to do that? If their mission was
to harass a Korean like Stacey Abrams.
Right, Stacey Abrams advocates, let's burn down the Korean grocery store. But then you look at what her dad, Floyd, had on him when he was arrested. It's very interesting. Let me find the right spot here.
A lot of the Korean stuff was going on during the LA riots too, where it's like they would go into Koreatown and just destroy stuff. And then I guess that's where we got the rooftop Koreans defending themselves. And there's interviews of people being like, why are you targeting the Korean shops? And it's like, because they've never done anything for us. It's like, well, most people have never done anything for you.
It's crazy, man. They had to bring in helicopters that threw in canisters of gas to spread to the crowd from destroying this Korean grocery store completely. Sorry, I'm trying to find the actual spot where Floyd, because he had a bunch of communist material on him is what it gets down to, but I want to read it to you guys.
Oh yeah, there you go. I mean, so it's very similar. If you ever read the book None Dare Call It Conspiracy, it details the banksters that were involved in all this kind of stuff. But the Bolshevik Revolution was Jews from New York, y'all, sent to Russia. They were paid for that.
Absolutely.
We did that. The United States instigated, funded, trained, supplied the people and the materials for the Bolshevik Revolution.
And to that point, one of the points that I gather from all of this is her father was very much using Bolshevik tactics. She talked during her testimony about how she has $15,000. I got $15,000 cash all the time. That's why everything's untraceable. She says her dad taught her to do that. Well, the reason her father taught her to do that is because her father was on the runs from the feds all the time. So he needed to have cash to have untraceable payments. Nobody brings that up during the testimony. It's just her dad taught it, and her dad is such a great guy. But the stuff that they found on him, let me make this a little bit bigger. I think this is it. All right, so they found on him a 9mm, this is just a little bit of it, a 9mm automatic, a 27-page booklet titled 1967 High Tide of Black Resistance, which the opening paragraph of that book says, The year 1967 marked a historic milestone in the struggle and the year that revolutionaries throughout the world began to understand more fully the impact of the Black movement. Our liberation will only come when there is final destruction of this mad octopus, the capitalistic system of the United States, with all its life-sucking tentacles of exploitation and racism that choke the people of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And that's just the beginning. There's some books on Chinese resistance. The list is just crazy.
Not Korean, though.
Right, yes. Yeah, not Korean.
Screw them.
Yeah, fuck them. It's just... Nobody these questions, in my opinion, are relevant. Maybe I think you can tie them to this trial, but Fani Willis's father, and Fani Willis seems to be doing the same thing. There's a book called The Organizational Weapon, The Bolshevik Strategy, speaking of Bolsheviks, where it talks about the communist strategy. And I know not just communists use that strategy. It's some people just use it because it's a good strategy for subversion. But they go very hard in their communist appeals when they're outside of power, or they use these conspiratorial tactics. When they're inside of power, they shed their communist colors and they pretend to be something else, yet they continue to use the same strategies with the power of the government behind them. I believe that Fani Willis is doing the same type of activism, whatever they would call it, that her father did, except with the power of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. And when you look at everybody she's hired since she has been put in place, she has hired nothing but Divine Nine, HBCU, Black Freemason members that she has put in place, which everybody involved in the story is one of. Nathan Wade is one of, her ex-husband, which nobody ever talks about. The weird story of that is one of them. Even Shaquille O'Neal, who she's pictured with, who they say is her husband in the pictures, which is weird, is one of them. The other guy, they're all part of this. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad necessarily, but to me, I'm just like, that's a little suspicious that one organization...
Shaquille O'Neal was smart enough to steer clear of the FTX stuff. He's a pretty smart dude. He likes to party, and he also likes to screw. So,
yeah, I'm sure
that does get you in some trouble from time to time. So,
absolutely,
I don't see him just walking knowingly into something like that.
No, I doubt he knew what was going on. But they had an HBCU party, and they had a party for these fraternities, which have all supported Fani throughout her entire career. She was actually She went to Kamala Harris held a party for these fraternities, these Divine Nine fraternities, at her house in D.C. before the indictment was brought down that Fani went to. And now it's just a party. I don't know, but it's all information that is not focused on that I think is relevant to what the motivations are. I'm not saying I know what those motivations are exactly, but I think this is where you start to kind of pull the lens.
If it's all, because it sounds like it's like Black liberation theology. Which we all got bathed in this when Obama was coming in. Like Sean Hannity, for all his faults, did a good job of really bringing Jeremiah Wright into the forefront and Black liberation theology. Yeah. And it wasn't just in Chicago in the late 90s, right? Like it's been here since the 40s. And
I mean, it goes all the way back to 100 years ago, the Boule, the Black elitist secret society group, which they said did not exist for a while, which was created and modeled to follow the agenda of the Skull and Bones. It's the same thing as the Tuskegee Project, as Stacey Abrams has all of this. It is getting a...
I can't believe Michael Bublé is wrapped up in all this.
Right, it's definitely something you don't want to be wrapped up in. But it's white elitists using Black people to influence Black people to serve the white elitist agenda is what it is, in my opinion.
And that's why I mentioned Van Jones, because that whole thing with Coca-Cola, when he did something about, Coca-Cola's racist, and then they started doing their equity thing, because when they were putting the names on the cans, he's like, why don't you have Jamal and Tyrone on there? Why is it all like Sarah and Stacy,
And that's why identity politics is the crutch. That's what they use all the time.
Yeah, which oddly enough, let me throw this out here while we're talking acronyms and stuff too. DEI, okay, diversity, equity, and inclusion is the mantra for these control freaks these days. Which, I mean, now what we're dealing with is highly educated, very well funded, third, fourth, maybe fifth generation communist activism.
Yeah.
And these people have, like, their parents held office, their grandparents held office, they are holding office. Where it's a deep rooted control network we're going up against. But DEI, there's an old Latin phrase that translates into divide and rule.
Yep.
Divide et impera, DEI.
Yep. Right. That's great. That's interesting. I mean, this is all divide and rule, so that makes perfect sense. And if you want to really have your mind blown with all of this, this is a story that I covered a long time ago when it comes to the kind of the Black Illuminati that I thought there was something there, especially because Kamala Harris is the vice president. Kamala Harris is also a member of one of the Divine Nine fraternities. But my problem with it was that nobody had ever asked her about this. But now the other players involved, I've researched them and found out that they were also part of these Divine Nine. Let me put something on screen. Take Shaq off there and show you. This is a story from 2015 when Kamala was the.
We never saw Shaq. If you want to throw that up real quick.
Yeah.
I'd taken that off the screen. Okay.
So Shaq was going to run for sheriff of Henry County, but George Soros had a DA appointed person running.
Right, he's not going to let Shaq do it. But this is not me. This image you see on screen, where it says who is Fani Willis's husband, Fred Willis. This has actually changed since I first started researching this weeks ago. But about 6 different websites, when you would try and find any information out about her ex-husband, it would show a picture of her and Shaquille O'Neal. Well, I mean, that's weird.
The craziest thing is the subtitle and the overlay. It actually says Fani Willis's ex-husband.
On top of the
subtitle
image.
says Fani Willis's. It says Fani Willis with her ex-husband Fred Willis, and then it's Shaq.
Absolutely. And so what I was able to find out about her ex-husband is you go read the Wikipedia story on their history, and it's like, on the day she took the bar exam, she happened upon a man who was doing a side job, and it calls it a side job. As a videographer, I'm like, a side job to what? That's a weird description. And then they got married, and then they got divorced, and then 17 years later, she entered into a relationship with Nathan. That's her personal life description on Wikipedia. I mean, what? She took 17 years off? And what was this thing about she met this guy who was 15 years older than her, so probably around 40 at the time. Was he wandering around the bar exam testing center? There are rules. You're not allowed to wander around the bar exam testing center because of there's just so many different, everything in the law is very specific about how it has to work. But they never give any details about that. The only thing she ever says about her ex-husband is that, I thought he had nice legs. He gave me 2 children with him. So he fucked her with his legs, gave her 2 children, and then he's gone. You can't find anything about her ever. But I was able to locate a little bit of information about him. And after they got married.
A weird picture though, if you had a chance to take a picture with Shaq, are you just gonna not smile and kind of stare at the camera like this is your
dude,
everyday?
This woman is a killer,
thing?
dude. She's like cold as ice, I think.
I'm more scared of her in this picture than Shaq.
Absolutely,
I'd rather fight Shaq.
Look at that. Shaq is looking at the camera. She's looking at the cameraman.
Right. She's gonna murder the cameraman afterwards. I think.
I've seen Shaq DJ, by the way.
Is he good?
Interesting.
DJ Diesel. He's awesome, dude. He's what's the dirty hippie fest they have in Fairburn every now and then? Tomorrowland.
Tomorrow. Yeah, I've been to that twice.
Yeah,
he's
DJ Diesel. He does a great set, man.
Yeah, Shaq is an entertaining guy, and I think Shaq is probably just doing a celebrity event with his fraternity that he probably has. He probably didn't know who Stacey or Fani Willis was when he went there. But this story here, which, by the way, her ex-husband, right after they got married, he all of a sudden became a videographer for the CDC for 3 years. And then after that, he became a videographer person for the World Bank of Atlanta. And then they got divorced, and then he has not been working in government at all, before or after. I don't know if there's any connection there.
Masonic Fraternal Police Department. What the hell is that?
This is the 2015 story when Kamala was the Attorney General. And the headline, the aide for California Attorney General arrested for pretending to be a police officer with the Masonic Fraternal Police Department after cops seized fake badges, uniforms, weapons, and patrol cars. Now, you see the 3 people pictured here on screen. The one in the bottom is Brandon Keel. Now, Brandon Keel worked for Kamala Harris. The only thing after this story happened that Kamala Harris' office, she has never, as far as I can find, spoken about this personally. Her office said that Brandon Keel was just a low-level staffer. That is untrue. I found documents, which I have, which have now been removed from the Attorney General's page of California, but it showed that she actually appointed Brandon Keel to a special group to do work on truancy, which was one of her, other than putting black people in jail for weed, truancy was one of her main things when she was in California, and she personally thanks Brandon Keel multiple times in this report, and there's tons of evidence that he worked in a special group that directly reported with her. She worked closely with this guy. They just wanted to distance her from him. What they did, these three, using his badge, from his Kamala Harris state attorney general badge, is they went to police precincts around the state of California, and they got a meeting with the sheriffs, and they said, we are here to exercise our jurisdiction as a Masonic fraternal police order. We are descendants of the Knights Templar, and we have jurisdiction over your police precinct, every police precinct in California, and every police precinct in 33 states and all of Mexico. They were wearing police uniforms, having these badges, and can you imagine doing that, right? Like having the audacity to go do that. I mean, I have to almost believe it if you're going to do it. And he was asked after they were arrested, because when they arrested them, they confiscated police cars from the house. They confiscated all these uniforms, all these weapons, and they were doing a broad investigation trying to find the other people involved in this. What he said when he was asked, what did Kamala think of you using her name and your badge from her office to do this? He said, she knew about it and she approved of it. Nobody's ever asked the vice president about that, which is in evidence and provable. No one's ever asked her about it, right? So I hate when I say right. I know people make fun of that. But all three of them, the guy on the top is the Grand Master that you saw. Let me show you a picture of the Grand Master. I'll take that one off. So Brandon Keel was the guy who got them in the door. The Grand Master is this guy right here.
Isn't it kind of crazy to be claiming to be like the police of Mexico? It's like, hey, you know that place really with the cartel problem where like people are being murdered and kidnapped all the time? We're the cops there.
The kind of places that you can get into if you're wearing a proper safety vest, some combat boots,
and you're
some
confident.
BDUs, and just carrying a clipboard, and if you walk with authority, you'd be surprised where you could get in.
I agree.
Yeah, you'd be a good pen tester.
The fact that they can say Kamala approves of it and nobody ever asked her about it is what. But throw that image on screen there. This is the Grand Master. This is the other guy. You see this Illuminati weird gear here, right? So there used to be a Google Plus page of this guy and all this weird, strange outfits he's wearing, posing, looking just like this with Bill Clinton, with Maxine Waters, giving Maxine Waters an award. Believe it or not, this guy, whose name is David, his last name will come to me in a second. He is an an Emmy award-winning Fox News local affiliate journalist. He's not a stupid guy, but he was going around dressed like this while the others had cop uniforms on, and he's the Grand Master. And the other woman was his girlfriend that was in on this scheme. And they all got arrested for impersonating peace officers. And for using, the other guy had the charge of falsely using a government badge. And of the three of them, when Brandon Keel, who was Kamala's guy, when he went to court, the case fell apart. They said that the information gathered, a police officer walked by his Mustang and saw something inside of it, and that violated the warrant. There was no warrant to do that. And so his charges were dropped. And to me, it was very obviously, you did a lot of good work for Kamala. We're going to help you out. And what we need you to do is get the hell out of here. And after 2015, he had a very active Twitter account up until 2015. His online footprint disappears. Gone. I could find nothing about this Brandon Keel guy until I got a message a few months back saying that somebody thinks they found information that he might be a realtor now in Florida somewhere. Which
hopefully using that same picture on his billboards.
Totally. So this is not this guy. So let me show you what happened to this guy. Before I tell you what happened to this guy, let me show you a video clip of this guy. There are probably a dozen videos that this dude made. And this all links to the Fani Willis stuff because they're all members of the same Divine Nine fraternities, which are now infiltrated fully in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, that all of these power players in Atlanta are members of. And this dude made a bunch of videos like this that have almost no views. It's probably mostly me because I've been playing these videos for years now, but it still only has 176 views.
So are they all members of the same Mason Hall that you can see from the interstate that doesn't have any freaking windows?
Oh, I don't know about
those. Wig me out. Like, when I see people that are like, "Yeah, I'm a Mason," I'm like, "Hey, why don't you have windows at your place?"
Right.
And like the ones
well,
that
all
I know,
the rape going on, obviously.
Yeah, the ones that I know are like good people. They're like, "Oh, there's plenty of windows. Come see." And like,
and there's people that are Masons that are good people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that these details that are never brought up into question are weird, and they should be clarified a little bit. Is all. And here's this dude that we just showed. This is the Brandon Keel, Kamala's buddy, the Grand Master, speaking about threats that have been made to him.
Is that the Prince Hall?
You should be able to full screen that too.
Is he a Prince Hall Mason? Because that's not really the Masons. That's like
I don't know if they're Prince Hall. I don't know about that specifically.
You'll know him by his logo. If I don't know. I can't see it well enough on his chest, but yeah.
Our lives have been threatened by the LA Sheriff's Department. Detective Amelia Hernandez put a hit out on me, Grandmaster David Henry, Reverend Tonette Hayes, and Brandon Keel. Please understand what you have done. I alerted everyone, from the President of the United States to the U.S. Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, and to California Attorney General Kamala Harris. I alerted everyone because they need to know the corruption of the Los Angeles Sheriff Department. Not all the deputies are bad, but just this particular group, Amelia Hernandez and her group, her clique. What I am saying is they threaten to kill us by pulling us over or detaining us and taking us to one of their locations and killing us. So this is what the Sheriff Department is doing.
So he makes a bunch of videos like this. And one video who actually says, if you want to come kill me, come kill me. And I think that might be his Emmy Award on the ledge there behind him. If
I was wondering about the one with like the angel holding the globe
golden
or
one.
whatever.
I think that's his Emmy Award.
I was looking at the other stuff too. It's like the pyramid and an owl. Aren't those sort of like occult symbols?
Yeah. Everything about it. Because you know what happened to him about a month after this video, the day before his first trial appearance? He dropped dead of a pulmonary embolism.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
The only one who was served any time for these charges was the woman who the investigator said was just kind of tagging along. So hashtag me too to those guys.
Golly.
But it's a really strange story.
By the way, Grandmaster, if you're in the Masons, if you really are a Grandmaster, that's the 33rd degree. That's that Illuminati stuff.
I don't know what the reality is about all this. I just know that all of it's weird and all of it goes back to Kamala, and she's never been asked about it. And now it all seems to be there's a through line there to Fani Willis and the entire Fulton County District Attorney's Office, basically.
Yeah, there we go. Well, and there was okay, so the actual Grandmaster of the Masonic Lodge in South LA had to issue a statement about this, and this is from 2015. They were also baffled by that video.
Yeah,
because they were like, that dude ain't one of us. I don't know where that came from.
It's maybe he makes that up.
Yeah,
but that seems like that's nothing's out of the realm of possibility. But when you listen to all of his videos, and now that I've been watching a lot of videos about people who have defected from their Divine Nine fraternities, and I don't know that I question their claims also, but their claim is that it was demonic, and they have come to God. And so the demonic teachings that they felt were being put upon them in these fraternities were not, they needed to get away from. And it's very eerily similar to this guy's videos and his claims. And there's also some tweets from what I have deciphered is probably this guy's account, where it shows these images of what it claims to be some of the people mentioned in some of his videos, which were, I think, state legislators in California at the time. Their names slipped my mind, but it has them. And maybe the videos, maybe the images aren't those people. This is something I've not been able to verify, but it's got people doing ritualistic. They're tied up and they got like ball gag, weird shit going on. It's my proposition here is that the person who is a heartbeat away from the presidency is connected to all of this. Nobody's ever asked her about it.
Yeah, like even if that guy's full of crap, it's still weird that this is your orbit. Right. It's like, who's in your orbit? Black Panthers and people who think they're Illuminati.
The Grand Master here, he's dead.
Wow. Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
It's really, and all of this is highly disqualifying of any kind of.
That's what I'm saying. Can you imagine that coming up on a background check? You're trying to get a job. They're like, well, we see you have the Grand Master here said you might be able to help him not get killed. And then he appears to have been killed or died of a heart attack. It's just like none of these things, if they were associated with any regular people, would we be able to ever get a job or do anything to make money in life?
How far has the Secret Service fallen if they're just allowing this crap? So we know when Obama got in there, all of a sudden, the Secret Service, they got caught in Bogota, Colombia. They were all partying, hookers and cocaine and all that. Like that was like the first time, because that was they're the uncorruptible soldiers, right? Like they're the ones that they're the highest level of defend the guards that we have,
I think the ultimate thing here is that it's probably very difficult to get a position in power, whether you're a politician or whether you're somebody protecting one in the White House, without being corruptible and someone having some sort of compromise over you in some way. There were the multiple stories about the hidden videos of the gay sex that went on in Congress that kind of got swept under the rug. There wasn't just one of those stories. There was two of those stories, and one of them had actually been covered up, which was revealed, which if there were two of them, then there's 100 of them.
We're talking about in the last couple of years. We're not talking about the Barney Frank stuff. And
I'm talking about within the last 6 months that these stories have come out, which tells me that the real January 6th footage is gay porn.
Yeah, there you go.
They're compromised. I think it's just hard. Not all of them. Some might get into it for good intent, but this is when you look at the CIA manuals for trying to create double agents. It's all about all these different ways to exploit people and compromise them, to control them. And I have no reason to believe that those in power in this country haven't been subjected to the same thing.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's like I don't know if you've seen Dave Chappelle's latest stand-up. Where he talks about Madison Cawthorn. Where he's like, he says he's been to these sex parties. Who invites a quadriplegic to a sex party? What are you going to do? What's your real benefit other than you can't feel anything from the waist down?
He type his keyboard and shit.
Right.
I mean, what was the scientist guy in a wheelchair? Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Like he visited Epstein Island, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. That's what I say. Man, it's wild, dude. I just think they create this set of rules in society that normal people, we abide by. And I think one of the reasons is to create it is to create the illusion that, man, nobody would do that crazy thing because I would never go to a sex island with this weirdo. But it prevents people from thinking that these people that they like, and these people are charismatic psychopaths, a lot of them. And it's like, oh, how could they ever do it? And it's just block that people have in their mind, but the reality is much, much darker. And it sucks to have that realization of the corruption, but I think it's also good to realize, because I think it gives society as a whole power to not support them, which I've always been of the opinion, I know this is an idealistic thing, but like the best way to really take away their power is get out the don't vote. Nobody fucking vote, and it invalidates their entire system, which makes me a Russian agent, I know, by saying something like that. But vote locally is what I support. Question everything federally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, what do you guys think? I've run my mouth. What do you guys think about RFK? I want to hear y'all's thoughts on him.
So he is very libertarian on one issue alone, and that is medical freedom. Everything else is absolute status quo to his last name. He's a Kennedy through and through. I mean, so Skynet, Facebook, I still do it, but is pushing one of these ads to me every day now for the last 3 weeks, and he says, "Hey, multinational corporations are getting into single-family housing, driving up the rent prices, driving property values through the roof. Nominate me president, and I will get multinational corporations out of single-family housing." And I'm like, last I checked, when you're running on the platform of give me a big stick and I'll beat this guy with it, that's called fascism, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's so many other things, gun control, taxes, tariffs with China, like all of it is going to be absolute socialism status quo. He's not a libertarian. And if Angela McArdle is going to even flirt with that, it's just a money grab.
Well, I know you're probably asking because you've seen some of these articles about how he might seek the libertarian.
I've seen all the people on Twitter too talking about it. And,
I don't know. I'll make a prediction. I don't think he'll do it because I think he knows he would get sent back home with his tail between his legs because, libertarians are a contentious bunch and they're not going to let somebody just walk in and take the nomination like I think he thought he could early on. And
it's like of all the different factions of delegates that are going to be at the convention in May, I don't know of any of them that would actually want RFK to be the nominee.
Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, and it's been tried before. Like last go around, there was Lincoln Chafee, who's not quite as impressive as RFK. But he thought he could waltz in and get the Libertarian nomination just based off his name and the fact that he's been a Democrat and he's been a Republican and he's been in office and whatever. And people just literally did not give a shit that he was there. Like, Lincoln, we forgot you were there. Sorry.
If that was the case, Penn and Teller would have been our candidate twice in a row already.
I remember he was a libertarian. He moderated a debate, I think, in 2016.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now he's completely insane Trump greatness syndrome.
But hey, if we want to have like a Kurt Russell, John Voight ticket, hey, dude, let's do this.
And I'm not even convinced that would work because, I went down some Wikipedia rabbit hole the other day and I saw that Clay Aiken, who was famous on the second season of American Idol,
I remember that.
He ran for office and people didn't give a crap about him in the Democratic primary. He came in third. And it's I don't know, fame really doesn't seem to matter that much because he lost to two people who were just Democrats of that city. So,
yeah, no, it's interesting.
I mean, if he picks Jesse Ventura, that would
be hilarious.
It would just be, and if Jesse does it, by the way, that would just be to try to siphon off the libertarian portion of the vote.
But Jesse Ventura, he hasn't been in the spotlight for a little while, though.
And he's tried it before.
He bugged out to Mexico. He's in the Baja Peninsula.
All right, let's try to wrap this up real quick. I know I've already had you guys for 30 minutes more than
sorry for
you agreed to.
Mouth for so long.
No, you're good. I don't want you to feel like you have to be here if time's running short or something. But let's end with a somewhat funny video, which I don't think was meant to be funny, but here it is. And I realized this was from 13 years ago. I just happened.
Oh my gosh! Did I send you guys this one?
No, I just happened upon this one, but this does seem like a very you thing.
Is this the one where you're searching a kid's bedroom?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
This is great.
I think I've seen this. This is really funny.
This is Eric Adams, who's now the mayor of New York, but I guess at the time he was a state senator. And this is his demonstration on how to reduce crime in New York.
Please come and join me inside my house as I show you how simple items such as bamboo paper can be an indicator of marijuana use, or a cut of straw can be an indicator of using cocaine. I will show you how to search a room to ensure that you remove illegal handguns and other contraband from your home. What I would like to show here is to empower parents on how to search a room inside their home. It's imperative that you should know what's inside your household. And no one can state that you can't search a room in your own home. You write the Constitution. There are no First Amendment rights inside your household. It is your obligation and responsibility not only to protect.
I think he meant to say Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, I was going to say, does the First Amendment have anything to do with searches? Don't think so.
I would see one of those robots they put in the New York subway come in there and start zooming around.
Yeah. No First Amendment here. I'm God, my house.
No First Amendment in New York either, but
look at those
especially
computer
not here.
screens. I love the computer screens. They're so
Child that
old.
may be using an illegal drug or carrying an illegal gun, but you also have to protect the members of the household, their younger brothers and younger sisters, and the other elder members of the household. So by periodically sending a message to your home that there are no rooms off limits, you don't believe in locked doors, your house is open to inspection by your house and the members of your house. The message is you expect your children to do what's right, but you always have to inspect.
I've done it before. I'll take it off the hinges.
And that's the key to providing some preventive safety. So if you come to a room like this,
Joe Biden even went as far as showering with his daughter just to make sure nothing's off limits.
Make sure she smells
the
right.
various items in the room. You can look at a jewelry box. A jewelry box of this nature, maybe a simple jewelry box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding. For instance,
An alligator jumps
a gun
up.
could be hidden. A small caliber weapon could be hidden inside a jewelry box. Look at the various colognes and perfumes and photos and pictures. You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see what exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book. Something simple as a crack pipe, a used crack pipe. So you have but this is a discussion piece where you should start speaking with him to find out what is he doing with it and the whole use of drugs. This invokes conversations.
A crack pipe invokes conversation.
Cameras. Try to determine
It's a conversation
what's taking
piece.
place. Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. What does that mean to find bullets? Does it mean your child is carrying a gun? No.
What does he think these
Where
kids are
there's smoke,
doing?
There's possible fire. Where there's a bullet, there's possibly a gun. You should engage in the conversation and find out what are they doing with the item.
What do you have these hidden bullets and crack pipes?
Look
son?
at all the items inside the room.
Well, it is New York
around
City,
and see
so
what's the
it gets so much
possibility.
better.
Something simple
It's a typical New York
baby
home.
doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a
camera.
place where you can secrete or hide drugs.
Why do you have these $15,000 cash?
Did he say secrete drugs?
Yes.
What is this for? This video?
What's just a nice
What did he make it
PSA?
Yeah.
It says combating gun violence. So
What was his job at the time?
I think state senator.
Okay.
He said at the very beginning that like he realized all of this was a problem when somebody got shot on his street.
I mean,
so he wanted to
Wow.
If you find out your kid is hiding thousands of dollars and a baby doll, bullets behind a picture, and a crack pipe in his book bag, I think you're a little bit beyond just starting a conversation about safety.
Yeah, that's not just being a normal child. That's not your body.
revolver
A
out.
gun in the pillow? Is that what this is?
There we go.
This is
You know what?
hilarious.
I really want to go to the Eric Adams escape room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny.
I want to be
Swift
friends with
poster?
whoever's house this is.
That's a Taylor Swift
like,
poster. No, says I. Black tar heroin taped to the wall. Golly.
Oh, this part's great.
What do you
I
get
gotta
out of
play
it?
real quick. Yeah. He's saying that I'll just play it, but he's saying that like if children find a revolver, they normally point it at themselves and pull the trigger. I don't know if that's true, but he says
Especially if
it
they've
is.
been smoking crack.
Oops, come on.
I would take this gun, and because the trigger pull is so hard, they normally take the gun and they point it in their direction to pull down on it. So many gun accidents take place merely because a child discovers a gun in the room and believes it's a toy, and they play with the gun. Just look and see what's inside.
So
the
wait a minute.
bookcases.
Pause for a
It could be
second.
more than just.
The kid is smart enough to hide bullets behind a picture, to stash 15 like cash inside of a doll, and have the crack pipe and but he's not smart enough, or she, to not point a gun at its face and blow its head off. That's
right.
Maybe the younger brother is coming in and blowing their head off when
He hasn't
the
learned on
older
the
brother
trade
has a
yet,
crack
yeah.
pipe. Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll say you said or she, because you're being a nice, inclusive progressive. But he hasn't said that. It's all been he. He doesn't think women can shoot themselves.
They're transgenders.
Yeah.
Perfect place to hide cocaine or other illegal substance inside the room. My message to you.
This is
and that was prison. About it.
He's describing here.
And if they have Ayn Rand on the bookshelf, open that up. You could have a whole immigrant family hiding within Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
I mean, that was an awesome video. I wish I could be in the room where they came up with the concepts. Like, what did they exclude from this video? It didn't make it.
I'm trying to see now what books they actually have. I don't recognize
I want to see the director's
no Ayn Rand
of this video.
Some quack says that's a bodybuilding trophy in the video, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Was that from the Masonic guy? Or was there something in this one? I didn't notice.
No, it was those trophies that were by the old CRT monitor.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
There you go. Okay. Old monitors. I mean, you look in the monitors.
Never get rid of an old monitor until you check it for crack.
Anabolic steroids. Just hiding out on the computer monitor. You never know.
That's hilarious.
Well, I guess that's about it for today. Thank you so much, Binkley, for coming on and discussing all manner of nonsense with us. That was fun. So I'm going to go ahead and play us out as soon as I figure out how to do that. Cheers. And I'm trying to think if there's any notes I should give to people. I don't know. If you're not following us, follow us. Because I know a lot of people are watching us from unusual places right now. We got a lot of people on X. You got people on Rumble. So please just hit follow so that you see us here next time.
Yeah, I'm broadcasting from inside the back of a teddy bear. Right now.
Yes. Yeah. It's a place to hide.
Yes.
So
make sure to always inspect your children's room for libertarian podcasts.
So Zane, do you have anything to plug or to announce right now, or should people just follow you at Placie_Z? What's going on?
I mean, you can do that if you want, but I don't really tweet. So I just put something there so that I look very official and have a headline.
You are official. All right. Steven, what about you? Anything going on in your world?
I mean, some personal stuff, but I mean, as far as, libertarian affiliations, I mean, our affiliates having a meeting in Fayetteville, I think the next week or so. I'm going to have to get back to you on the official date. We're actually still debating it. So, but we're getting together.
Libertarians. Yeah.
Yes, we will get together in March. And then back in April, once April comes around, we're back to our third Saturday of the month, typically around Line Creek Bus Barn in Fayetteville.
Which is a really cool location. Super cool.
Yeah.
Brewery. There's barbecue.
Beer's okay.
There's snacks,
the venue's great. There's stuff for kids, stuff for adults. Yeah. Full service bars. You got pizza, barbecue, a couple of food options, all in the same place.
Cool. And Binkley, tell us where we can find you, and more importantly, tell people how they can support you, because I know you killed it on Sam Tripoli recently on Tinfoil Hat. You were on with Josh Smith. You've been on a lot of big things recently and probably getting a lot of attention. But how can people actually support you? Is that Rockfin the best place to do it?
Rockfin.com/propaganda report, Patreon.com/propaganda report is another way where you get the shows ad-free, and I do extra content from time to time. Not every show I do extra content with. I do 3 to 4 shows a week. Once I'm in the process of moving, once I get fully moved, I will be upping that, and there will be more extra content. And also PayPal Brad Binkley. People give individual donations, and just sharing the show and telling people about it and leaving comments that are positive and make me feel good. That also keeps me motivated. So that's also very helpful on whatever podcasting platform at the Propaganda Report podcast. And my website is propagandafight.com, youtube.com/Brad Binkley, rumble.com/The Prop Report. And on X, it's at Freedom Act Radio. And thank you guys for having me on. I'm sorry I kept you guys too long. I know I run my mouth a lot.
No, you're good. We do this every time Jake isn't here. We go at least 20 minutes over. This time we did 40. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Catch us next week. We'll be here same time, probably with Jake. I don't know if he's still watching March Madness. It might be me again. Who knows? Tune in to find out. Thank you guys. See you then.
Cheers.